Well, it's that time of year again, and I really love these fund drives because this is the Free Speech TV membership fund drive, fundraising, whatever they officially call it, because it's the opportunity for you and me to support this network, for us to help make a television network that is actually telling the truth about really important issues that the corporate media literally will not touch. You know, the disparities in wealth, why the billionaires are getting richer and richer, where taxes should be, the inheritance tax, the net neutrality. I mean, the nuclear power, global warming. They'll dance around the edges of that, but they always have some guy on going, well, it's not as bad as we think. You know how this goes. Free Speech TV is the truth-telling network. It's the little engine that could, and this is our opportunity to keep this network going, to keep this network on the air. 3 or 4 times a year, Free Speech TV comes to you and says, hey, please help our network out. Please support the network, and in this case, help support the Thom Hartmann Program on the network. And you can do that right now by calling 877-378-8669. 877-378-8669. Your chance to be part of Free Speech TV, to help Free Speech TV, to promote Free Speech TV, to make Free Speech TV work. So, you know, it's just a great time and a great opportunity. And if you put it in the context of this nation's history, it's an incredibly important time. We need Free Speech TV. And I mean, it's just amazing what Free Speech TV does. They're running an entire television network on a budget that's just a little over $3 million a year. I mean, it's just, as I recall, and it's just incredible. I mean, you know, extraordinary people at Free Speech TV doing really great work and working their butts off. And you know, for not a whole lot of pay or recognition, but you know, God bless them. This enterprise is really worth your support. So I know Giving Tuesday has come and gone, but this is, you know, 'tis the season, as it were. Plus, it's, you know, we're coming up on the end of the year, and your contributions to Free Speech TV are tax deductible. So be sure to ask for a receipt. With a $20 gift, you get a Free Speech TV 3x8 clear window sticker, a Free Speech TV sticker. It's kind of cool. With a $60 gift, you get the Thom Hartmann Tag You're It coffee mug. With a $72 gift, you get the 2018 edition of The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight by me. Now, this is a book that I wrote back in the 90s, predicting that there was going to be a crisis in the future, and it was going to have to do with ancient sunlight, which, of course, is oil. Plants captured sunlight hundreds of millions of years ago. It got buried in the earth as dead plant matter, compressed over time, heat and pressure converted it into oil. And now that oil is like, you know, now as we're burning it, we're releasing that sunlight energy back into the atmosphere. And not a good thing. Not just the energy, of course, we're also releasing the carbon, which was the storage mechanism for that energy. So Troy Miller and I went through and revisited all the science in the book, because the original edition was 1996, and then it was updated in 2004, as I recall. And we just updated the book again for 2018 to have the most current data, including all the new information about methane. That's with a $72 gift. With a $120 gift, you get a Free Speech TV t-shirt, black with the logo and the sticker. With a $120, that gift can be also $10 a month for a year. With a $240 gift, which could be $20 a month for a year. Louise and I are going to put together a webinar, a live online seminar. We're calling it Personal Growth in NLP, and we're going to go through some of the core principles of neuro-linguistic programming, which is a technology for communication, for improving relationships, communication, work, I mean, all dimensions of your life. And the only people who are going to be invited are the people who have contributed $240 or more to Free Speech TV. So that's with the $240 level, or $20 a month for a year. And it's gonna happen sometime in the next few months. With a $360 gift, you get a 5-book special: The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight, Unequal Protection, The Thom Hartmann Reader, Rebooting the American Dream, and those are all by me. And then Greg Palast's book, The Best Democracy Money Can Buy. I'm not sure if that's his book or if it's the DVD. It's one or the other. And with a $480 gift, you get the 5-book special, plus the Free Speech TV, and that can be $40 a month for a year, plus the Free Speech TV t-shirt, plus the Thom Hartmann Tag You're at Coffee mug. So, it's kind of all of the above with $480 gift. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Washington, or not Washington, D.C., come to Portland, where we have now moved, and you can see how we can produce a nationwide television program out of a little tiny studio, out of this little office, in this little office building here in Portland, and have fun doing it. You can see what we do and what Free Speech TV is doing, and how tightly we can wring a very small budget and actually produce something. And I'll take you to lunch, and we'll have a great time. So please call now, 877-378-8669. Thank you. Free Speech TV is in their fund drive right now, their fundraising drive, and so it would be a great time for you to call 877-378-8669, 877-378-8669. And, of course, you can go to the Free Speech TV website and donate there as well. Please be sure to mention the show. There are a lot of great goodies that Free Speech TV is offering right now as part of the funds drive. And, in fact, there's quite a few. But the important thing is to call 877-378-8669. Here's some information on one of the things that you can get. With a $20 contribution, and $20 may not sound like a lot of money, but, to Free Speech TV, actually it is. This is an entire television network that runs on a little tiny budget. For the $20 contribution, you get a Free Speech TV sticker, 3x8 clear window with a logo, Free Speech TV. Please call now.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Greetings, my friends, patriots, lovers of democracy, truth, and justice, believers in peace, freedom, and the American way. Thom Hartmann here with you. Well, we are, by the way, it's going to be a big day on this program for Congress, I guess. Senator Sherrod Brown will be joining us in about 10 minutes. Senator Bernie Sanders will be joining us at the bottom of the hour. And in the next hour, second hour of the program, Senator Jeff Merkley will be here. And in the third hour of the program, we're going to be talking with former Congressman Chris Shays, a Republican. And it's going to get real interesting. So that's kind of the broad outline of our day. We have now, as a result of Michael Cohen pleading guilty to lying to the Senate, we have now learned that Donald Trump's price apparently is a hotel. His price to sell out his country. Give me a hotel, I'll commit treason. I'll sell out my country. He lied to us, according to Michael Cohen's guilty plea this morning. Donald Trump lied to us throughout the campaign. Remember, he went on TV, he said, I got nothing to do with Russia. I'm not doing any business. I got no money invested in Russia. Maybe those are very carefully crafted words. Maybe he didn't have money invested in Russia. Because after all, he wouldn't build the hotel. A Russian oligarch would build the hotel. They'd put Trump's name on it, and they would pay Trump millions of dollars, in royalties and fees. That's how it works. Trump doesn't actually build these properties around the world. He gets somebody else to build them. He puts his name on them, and then they pay him for the naming rights. And I think his brand is kind of in the crapper right now, but he's been doing this for some time. So I suppose he could say, yeah, I didn't do that, but he was trying to do that deal. At the same time that he was protesting that he wasn't doing anything. This is, and is this the one hand wash as another? Has Mueller finally proven collusion? Or shall we say conspiracy to defraud the United States of America and its citizens? Trump obviously defrauded us. He lied to us throughout the campaign. And then Michael Cohen, to support that lie, went and lied before Congress. But it's not just Trump. This is the entire Republican Party now. It's become the Trump Party. And people are literally dying from Republican health care policies. We were talking the other day about these two women who tried to deliver the ashes of their dead children who were diabetics. They were young adults, and they were on their own, and they couldn't afford to pay for their insulin because the company, Sanofi, as I recall, had jacked the price from $25 a dose up to $500 a dose, or numbers in that range. And, the Republicans are, oh, it's cool with us, And not to mention the failure to expand Medicaid. We've talked about Charlene Dill, the woman in Florida who died because Rick Scott would not expand Medicaid. She was working, so she was earning too much money to get Medicaid. But she wasn't earning enough money to be able to afford to pay for insurance. She was working 3 part-time jobs. She had 3 kids. She was cutting her heart medication in half because she couldn't afford it. She died. Rick Scott's blood, her blood is on Rick Scott's hands, who is now heading to the Senate. I mean, this is the entire Republican Party. They're helping the planet to die. And they're lying to us about all of this, just like Trump lied to us about being in bed with Russia and Russian oligarchs, presumably, to build the Trump Hotel. They've been lying to us for years. I mean, Reagan came in and lied to us and said, oh, yeah, trickle-down economics, it's going to make the nation prosperous. Bush lied to us. Oh, yeah, there's weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. Nixon lied to us. Oh, I'm not a crook. I wouldn't blow up the Vietnam peace talks in 1968 just to get myself elected. They were all lies. The last legitimately elected Republican president was Dwight Eisenhower. You've heard this riff before. And frankly, the last Republican president who didn't lie to us, to the best of our knowledge, was Dwight Eisenhower. I think America is waking up. It really feels like America is waking up. Like we may not have to go through, some sort of just horrible crisis to get to that point. It's just, actually, we are going through a horrible crisis right now. It's the Republicans having gerrymandered the country so that even though they overwhelmingly, the nation voted for Democrats for the House of Representatives and even for the Senate in the last election, Republicans hold a majority in the Senate, a narrow majority, but a majority in the Senate, and were able to hold on to, at least 100 seats that should have flipped. And they're able to hold on to some state legislatures. I mean, this enormous scam is going on. And, when are we going to wake up? I think we're waking up. As these guys are aggressively working to destroy the planet and lying to us about it, to loot our government and hand that money off to their billionaire friends through the GOP tax scam, and they're lying about it. I mean, every step along the way, these guys are pulling this stuff off and lying about it to all of us. And this is, and now, Mueller is exposing it. Thank God. All right, thank God we can finally figure out what's actually going on. And it's the Donald Trump, the grifter in chief, the Trump, and according to Cohen, he's been briefing his entire family on this. This is the Trump crime family about to go down, or at least that's how it looks to me. We're going to check in with Sherrod Brown, I believe, right after the break. Yep, stick around.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And, of course, we'll be taking your calls throughout the day at 202-808-9925. And welcome back. There we go. Get my call screener software up, but Sherrod Brown is going to be with us in a few minutes. I want to talk about that. This GM thing. Yeah. PC intern writes over at Democratic Underground. This is great. I recall in 1980, the late, great Ronnie Reagan took a trip to Pittsburgh, donned a hard hat, and went to the steel mills, which at the time were churning out vast amounts of steel products for America and much of the world. Standing there in his work shirt and hard hat, he joked around with the workers and told stories of welfare queens driving Cadillacs and the like, patted these workers on the back, got back in his limousine and took off. They all thought he was a great guy and voted for him. And here we are, right? No more steel. Well, we make some steel in the United States, but not most of it. No more aluminum, no more, and Ford has announced in 2 years they're going to stop making cars here. I mean, they're going to still make them in Mexico, I guess. They're going to be making them in Europe, but not here. GM closing 7 factories. I mean, it's pretty amazing when you think about it. It really is. Steve in Phoenix, Arizona. Hey, Steve, what's on your mind today?
Just turning my TV down here. I just got on here. Just want to say the stuff that's coming out here is pretty amazing. You know, back in the 80s, when we had Rudy Giuliani, is the hero crime fighter who took on the mob and the RICO stuff, and you know how he was doing good for the country then. It's amazing how he's flipped over, and now
he's become the mob.
What's that, Tom?
He's become the mob.
Yes, he has. It's just outrageous, and this cannot be. We cannot tolerate this any longer. And the Jamal Khashoggi killing, which has been denied by Trump, and this is just outrageous. You know, the attacks on Jim Acosta and all journalism. This whole thing has to end. I've said it before. I'll be quick. The Kochs are the cancer. The money in politics is the cancer, and I'm glad the Australian Prime Minister came out and said that the Fox is the cancer too. And
yeah, the former Kevin Rudd, the former Australian Prime Minister. You're absolutely right. And
exactly.
And you know, we know, for example, that for the Koch brothers, their price to sell out the planet is presumably another $1 billion. You know, don't regulate carbon. Just let us keep making money, right? So, you know, their price to sell out the planet. I don't know, $1 billion, $2 billion, whatever, the profit that they would make. Trump's price to sell out America, actually the Kochs are selling out the world. Well, so is Trump for that matter. Trump is doing climate denial too. But his price to specifically sell out the United States in his campaign, which he, right up until the day of the election, until the night that the returns came in, he was just thinking, this is a stunt, this is a PR stunt, this is going to get me a big salary from NBC when I'm done with this. They are going to so want to put me on The Apprentice, and they're going to pay me more than Gwen Stefani. And
yes, it's such a shame that NBC did that with Stefani, because otherwise we may not have this.
Yeah, isn't it bizarre? If NBC hadn't paid Gwen Stefani more than Donald Trump, he wouldn't have tried this stunt. I mean, seriously, it's like he wouldn't have done this stunt, and it's incredible. It's just, you think about what could have been. It's just mind-boggling. Steve, thanks for the call. Thanks for watching us there in Phoenix on Free Speech TV. Much appreciated. Coming up on 17 minutes past the hour. We'll be right back. And welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. The Senate just called a vote for 20 minutes past the hour, which is 3 minutes from now. So I'm not sure if Sherrod Brown is going to be able to show up when we were planning. We'll see. This is live radio and television, so it'll just be, it'll be when it is. And the same thing with Bernie. I don't know, what the deal is. But for the moment, you have me, which is, I hope, just fine with you. It's fine with me. I wanted to just recap what we have learned in the last 48 hours. In the last 48 hours, let's say. We have learned that Paul Manafort was telling at every stage along the way, every question that Mueller asked him, which would tend to, the questions that you're asked tend to suggest the lines of inquiry the prosecutor is pursuing. And so you can figure out, or at least Manafort thought he could figure out, or his lawyers thought he could figure out exactly what Mueller was up to. What is he investigating? What does he know? And he was back channeling this directly to Donald Trump through his lawyers. So here you've got, this criminal conspiracy between Paul Manafort and Donald Trump that now may have ensnared their attorneys. their actual attorneys may be looking at being prosecuted for this. And this was all to conceal the activities that Manafort engaged in when he was running Trump's campaign, when the RNC said, "Oh, we're going to go easy on Russia," with changing the party platform and all this kind of stuff. This was apparently done by Manafort, but with Trump's saluting it, nodding, giving a nod to it. So we learned that, and then we learned that, and now we're getting to motive, right? Trump really didn't want to be president. So why would he reach out to Russia to ask for help? Right? One of the things that we know is that Donald Trump did not want to be president, did not expect to be president. He knew that if he became president, what would happen is exactly what's happening right now. The spotlight on him would get so bright that he would no longer be able to conceal his crimes, and he would no longer be able to run the grift that he's been running for at least the last 20 years, basically since he ran out of money. And it's a variation on cons and grifts he's been running his whole entire life, and that his father was running, taking government money for low-income housing and then ripping people off. That's what his father did. That's how his father got rich, and Donald just continued in that tradition. So we know that. But, so it was kind of like the movie The Producers, where the Mel Brooks movie, where these two guys, conspire to produce a play on Broadway with the goal of it losing money, so that they can take that loss and say to the investors, after they've paid themselves a nice salary, if I'm remembering the movie correctly, they could say to the investors, "I'm sorry, we didn't make any money. You've lost your investment." Which happens. I mean, when you invest in Broadway play. And so they produced this play that they just knew nobody would want to see. Springtime for Hitler, right? Springtime for Hitler in Deutschland. Anyway, but the play made money, and then they were in deep trouble because then it became then the word got out that they had lied to their investors. The same thing is happening to Trump right now. So now, why would he do this? Why would he, either himself directly or through his intermediaries, partners, representatives, why would he reach out to Russia? Well, it turns out it looks like the price that Trump was willing to take in order to sell out his own country was a hotel in Moscow. On the line with us is Senator Sherrod Brown, one of the real good guys. Brown.senate.gov, just reelected as senator from Ohio. Yeah, you can tweet him at Sen, S-E-N, Sherrod Brown. Senator Brown, welcome back to the program.
Thom Hartmann, love your show and love how you do it and love how you put current events in the context of history. And if more people in this country did that and fewer watch Fox News, we'd have a way better government. So
thank you, sir. Amen. So Donald Trump, you've got in Lordstown, Ohio, General Motors is closing a factory. This is your state. I know that you have been working rather publicly, actually, for a number of years to try to strengthen General Motors and to work out deals that'll keep jobs in town. And Trump has the temerity to blame this on you? I don't get it.
Well, it was kind of funny because it's like there's a Republican president in this country, a Republican House, a Republican Senate, a Republican Supreme Court, a Republican governor in Ohio, and Trump looked out over the horizon, and the only Democrat he could see in Ohio, I guess, was me, so he thought he'd blame me. But, I mean, I'll put up my record on fighting for workers against Donald Trump's any day. I mean, I voting against NAFTA, or 10 years ago fighting against, or longer than that ago, fighting against this trade policy with China, while President Trump, the billionaire developer, was sending jobs overseas for his own businesses. So I will make that contrast anytime on who makes the fight for the middle class, who makes the fight for low-income people, who makes the fight for workers.
Yeah, and he continues to. I mean, we've seen online pictures of MAGA hats, or I sometimes call them maggot hats, that have made in China or made in Mexico labels on them. I mean, it's just it's important bizarre
to point out this sort of phony populism. I mean, real populists are never racist or never anti-Semitic, never push some people down to lift others. Real populists believe in the dignity of work, real populist fight for people who work hard all their lives, real populist fight for low-income people. And, the White House, in contrast, the phony populism of the White House looks like a retreat for Wall Street executives, except on the days it looks like a retreat for drug company executives. I mean, it's such a clear contrast. And we've got to take that whole populism label away from Trump, because he clearly is never on the side of he doesn't have the backs. He's not on the side of real people. He doesn't ever have the backs of the public.
Yeah, well, he talks a good line, but that's all he's got. I mean, this guy has been peddling BS for, his entire life. Tell me about the American Cars, American Jobs Act. Yeah,
I talked to Trump last night about this, and I asked him to support it. And here's the problem: if you shut down production, the day they laid off 1,500 workers in Lordstown back last summer, the same day GM announced they were building a plant in Mexico to make the Chevy Blazer. One of the reasons for that is if you're paying 21% federal corporate tax if you're making things in Youngstown, you go to Mexico, all of a sudden in taxes you get a 50% off coupon on your taxes. You're only paying 10.5%. So of course these companies are going to. So I said to the president, we've got to get rid of that tax break. It was the president's tax bill that put it in, that 50% off.
Oh, really?
We've got to get rid of that tax break, and we've got to take that money saved from that tax break and put it in the pockets of car buyers that are buying American cars in the United States. It would be $3,500 per car. So you take away the corporate subsidy that ends up in the executives' pockets, and you instead put the money in the pockets of car buyers, and you'd help create more demand, and you'd see more jobs in the United States, and you'd see this plant in Youngstown. You'd see them retool that plant for another car there or another vehicle, and that's why this American Car, American Jobs Act would work. And even the president last night said to me he's for it, but he also said he was for the Patriot Corporation Act and the Working Families Tax Relief Act. So we're going to hold him to it, and we're sending him all the information, and we're going to talk to him about it, but we're going to keep the pressure on.
That's amazing. And you're talking about the GOP tax scam, this giant tax reduction.
Yeah, you think about that. GM got billions of dollars in that tax cut. Then they have the temerity, the CEO, to tell me, well, we can't retool this plant. Well, why? Because they put that money into stock buybacks. So executive compensation. The top 5 executives at GM are making $100 million, but they couldn't keep this plant open. They couldn't retool. She told me it would cost too much to build the new paint shop because you'd have to raise the ceiling. Well, compared to building a new plant in Mexico, so they just didn't want to spend their hard-earned tax gain. This is again in the context of we saved this industry. President Bush helped. President Obama and the Democrats in Congress saved this industry a decade ago. They get a huge tax cut last year, and now they want to preserve this, move offshore and get a 50% off coupon on their taxes now instead of investing in the United States. And for most people, we've had enough of that.
That's incredible. The great Senator Sherrod Brown, brown.senate.gov, and at Send Sherrod Brown on Twitter. Senator, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks always, Tom. Thanks for
great talking with you. And keep up the great work. We will be back. Bernie may drop by, and we'll continue our conversation and your thoughts on what's happening with Trump. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Trump has also canceled his meeting with Putin down in Argentina. But, he says that it's because of Ukraine. I think it's because, the truth is coming out. Well, it's that time of year again, and I really love these fund drives because this is the Free Speech TV membership fund drive, fundraising, whatever they officially call it, because it's the opportunity for you and me to support this network, for us to help make a television network that is actually telling the truth about really important issues that the corporate media literally will not touch. The disparities in wealth, why the billionaires are getting richer and richer, where taxes should be, the inheritance tax, the net neutrality, the nuclear power, it's global warming. They'll dance around the edges of that, but they always have some guy on going, well, it's not as bad as we think. You know how this goes. Free Speech TV is the truth-telling network. It's the little engine that could. And this is our opportunity to keep this network going, to keep this network on the air. 3 or 4 times a year, Free Speech TV comes to you and says, hey, please help our network out. Please support the network, and in this case, help support the Thom Hartmann Program on the network. And you can do that right now by calling 877-378-8669. 877-378-8669. Your chance to be part of Free Speech TV, to help Free Speech TV, to promote Free Speech TV, to make Free Speech TV work. So, you know, it's just a great time and a great opportunity. And if you put it in the context of this nation's history, it's an incredibly important time. We need Free Speech TV. And I mean, it's just amazing what Free Speech TV does. They're running an entire television network on a budget that's just a little over $3 million a year. I mean, it's just, as I recall, and it's just incredible. I mean, you know, extraordinary people at Free Speech TV doing really great work and working their butts off. And you know, for not a whole lot of pay or recognition, but you know, God bless them. This enterprise is really worth your support. So I know Giving Tuesday has come and gone, but this is, you know, 'tis the season, as it were. Plus, it's, you know, we're coming up on the end of the year, and your contributions to Free Speech TV are tax deductible. So be sure to ask for a receipt. With a $20 gift, you get a Free Speech TV 3x8 clear window sticker, a Free Speech TV sticker. It's kind of cool. With a $60 gift, you get the Thom Hartmann Tag You're It coffee mug. With a $72 gift, you get the 2018 edition of The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight by me. Now, this is a book that I wrote back in the 90s, predicting that there was going to be a crisis in the future, and it was going to have to do with ancient sunlight, which, of course, is oil. Plants captured sunlight hundreds of millions of years ago. It got buried in the earth as dead plant matter, compressed over time, heat and pressure converted it into oil. And now that oil is like, you know, now as we're burning it, we're releasing that sunlight energy back into the atmosphere. And not a good thing. Not just the energy, of course, we're also releasing the carbon, which was the storage mechanism for that energy. So Troy Miller and I went through and revisited all the science in the book, because the original edition was 1996, and then it was updated in 2004, as I recall. And we just updated the book again for 2018 to have the most current data, including all the new information about methane. That's with a $72 gift. With a $120 gift, you get a Free Speech TV t-shirt, black with the logo and the sticker. With a $120, that gift can be also $10 a month for a year. With a $240 gift, which could be $20 a month for a year, Louise and I are going to put together a webinar, a live online seminar. We're calling it Personal Growth in NLP, and we're going to go through some of the core principles of neurolinguistic programming, which is a technology for communication, for improving relationships, communication, work, I mean, all dimensions of your life. And the only people who are going to be invited are the people who have contributed $240 or more to Free Speech TV. So that's with the $240 level, or $20 a month for a year. And it's gonna happen sometime in the next few months. With a $360 gift, you get a 5-book special: The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight, Unequal Protection, The Thom Hartmann Reader, Rebooting the American Dream, and those are all by me. And then Greg Palast's book, The Best Democracy Money Can Buy. I'm not sure if that's his book or if it's the DVD. It's one or the other. And with a $480 gift, you get the 5-book special, plus the Free Speech TV, and that can be $40 a month for a year, plus the Free Speech TV t-shirt, plus the Thom Hartmann Tag You're It coffee mug. So, you know, it's kind of all of the above with $480 gift. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Washington, or not Washington, D.C., come to Portland, you know, where we have now moved, and you can see how we can produce a nationwide television program out of a little tiny studio, out of this little office, in this little office building here in Portland, and have fun doing it. You can see what we do and what Free Speech TV is doing. and how tightly we can wring a very small budget and actually produce something. And I'll take you to lunch, and we'll have a great time. So please call now, 877-378-8669. Thank you.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Wow, lots and lots of breaking news. It's been reported that the law firm that has represented Donald Trump's business for 12 years. Now, I'm not talking about Michael Cohen. Michael Cohen was his bagman, his fixer. But he actually had a law firm that represented him. And Louise and I were talking about this last night. And by the way, we're waiting for Bernie to call in. He'll presumably be any time now. All depending on Senate votes and whatnot. But it occurs to me that the people who can do Senator Sanders is on the line. How cool is that? Senator Sanders, welcome back to the program.
Tom, how are you?
I'm great, and I'm even better now that you're on the line with us. You had a great victory yesterday with what's going on in Yemen. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, well, it wasn't, a victory for me or Senator Lee or Senator Murphy. It really was a victory, I hope, for the people of Yemen. I don't know how many Americans really know the kind of humanitarian disaster that is currently taking place in Yemen as a result of the Saudi-led intervention there in the civil war. But, Tom, we are talking about, unbelievably, in the last several years, 85,000 children who have already starved to death. And you're talking about a nation, according to the United Nations, where millions more may perish from starvation. You're talking about a country where there are 10,000 new cases of cholera every single week. This is all in a country of 28 million people. So what yesterday's vote was about, and I want to thank the grassroots throughout this country for supporting us on this, was making it clear that the United States has got to end its involvement in this Saudi-led war. We cannot allow a despotic regime in Saudi Arabia, led by the Crown Prince there. We cannot let them determine American military policy. And furthermore, we have got to reassert congressional prerogative, constitutional congressional prerogative in the war-making process. As you know, the Constitution makes it very clear that it is the Congress of the United States, not the President of the United States, but Congress that determines whether or not we go to war. And certainly this war in Yemen has not been authorized and, in my view, is unconstitutional.
Now, Donald Trump has been saying that the reason why we need to support the Saudis, both in the war on Yemen and in the charges that Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince, was involved in the murder of Jamal Khashoggi, the journalist, the American resident, green card holder, that the reason we have to do this is because it's hundreds of billions of dollars in defense contracts. And yesterday I was, sharing with our listeners and viewers that it turns out that it was between $12 and $15 billion, and that was just a memo of understanding, basically, a tentative deal, and that Jared Kushner walked into the room and said, we've got to make this look like there's a real bond between Saudi Arabia and the United States and the Trump administration. So let's just tell everybody it's $100 billion. And so they just invented this lie. How do we break through the media? And even if you were to assume that there's some value in saying we'll take money in exchange for lives and humanity, how do you break through the media of the level of mendacity here?
I mean, it really is quite incredible and really unprecedented. Every politician in the world stretches the truth and tries to make his or her point. But that you have a president who is a pathological liar, who uses lies in a way that we have never, ever seen before, virtually every single day. I mean, he's told thousands of lies since he has been president. And I think we just have to do everything we can to expose his big lies. And what I often talk about is, he ran for president, you'll recall, saying that he was going to provide health care to everybody and then work to throw 32 million people off the health care they had. He said his tax bill would not benefit the wealthy. Well, 83% of the benefits go to the top 1%. He said he would not cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. His budget did exactly that. So, we just got to keep harping on the lies. But I think yesterday was also a rebuke. The vote on Yemen was a rebuke to his policies. The idea, it's not only that the lies about the amount of military sales to Saudi Arabia, but more importantly, is that really what American foreign policy is about? Yeah. That we're going to shape our policies dependent upon what country buys military hardware from Boeing or General Dynamics. I think that's not what this country is supposed to be about. And I think what I worry about above and beyond the humanitarian disaster in Yemen, which we have got to focus on. And by the way, what we won yesterday was simply discharging that bill from committee. On Tuesday, I believe, you never know around here in the Senate, I believe we'll have a motion to proceed. And we may not have the 63 votes. Some will, I think, drop out and not be with us. But I think we have a majority, and I would ask your listeners to keep putting pressure on members of the Senate to demand that the United States ends its involvement in that war.
You've got it. And also climate. This is, we just, 88 people were just burned to death in their homes or their backyards because the fossil fuel industry has been lying to us for the better part of 60 years. And now the Republican Party, for the better part of probably 20 or 30 years, lying to us at the behest of the billionaire, these petro-billionaires. And our planet's on fire.
No, and that's exactly right. And I think, from a geopolitical point of view, let's remember that Putin does not believe in climate change while they're sitting on enormous amounts of oil. These people in Saudi Arabia are pumping out an enormous amount of oil, and then we got Trump here. So when you talk about geopolitics around the world, it also has a lot to do with the major oil producers of the world who, for their reasons, for their short-term profits, are willing to sacrifice the future of this planet. I would mention, by the way, that on Monday night, we are going to be live streaming a town meeting from Washington, D.C., which is going to have some of the leading climate experts in the world with us. And I think we're going to be exploring what is happening. And your point that you just made is absolutely right. What happened in California, where 88 people died, where some 14,000 homes were destroyed. What the scientists are telling us is this is what we will see in increased frequency in years to come, unless we have the guts to stand up to the greed of the fossil fuel industry, transform our energy system away from fossil fuel and to energy efficiency and sustainable energy. And, the bad news is that you got an administration which not only lies all the time, they simply don't believe in science, and they're rejecting what 13 agencies of the federal government have told them, let alone the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. And we are seeing right now, it's not just California, it's rising sea levels. It is heat waves. It is drought. It is the migration of people already taking place around the world in order to get water and land that they can grow their crops on. And we have got to appreciate that this is one of the great crises, not only facing the United States of America, but facing this entire planet. And we have got to move aggressively to transform our energy system. And as you know, the good news is that we are developing technology, improved technology every day, which will enable us to do that, whether it is the plummeting price of solar, whether it is improved technology in wind, geothermal, and so forth and so on. And what I would also point out that is not stressed often enough is not only, most importantly, that we have to address the climate change crisis, but when we move to transforming our energy system, we can create millions of jobs in energy efficiency and moving toward weatherizing our homes and our buildings. We can create a transportation system that is electrified, and we can create jobs in wind and solar and geothermal and other technologies. But the future of the planet is at stake. And I think, as you were implying, Tom, this takes us back to the tobacco industry. Remember them lying all of the time?
And the asbestos industry that killed my father. Same thing.
Well, now that you mention it, my dad smoked 2 packs as well. That's right.
Yeah.
And died at a young age. And they lied and they lied and they lied, and millions of people died. And now these people at ExxonMobil and elsewhere are lying and lying and obstructing and obstructing. And the media, of course, has been horrendous on this issue, not focusing on this crisis in a way that it should. And now the planet is at stake. So on Monday night, I hope people watch it. It'll be a very good live stream town meeting. We're going to have some great people on it, and we're going to be talking not only about the crisis, but about what we can do to address the crisis, the kind of jobs that we can create, what's going on around the rest of the world. Some really good things are happening. And at the end of the day, if we are smart as a people and a government, we can lower the cost of fuel for people if we put an emphasis on solar technology, et cetera.
That's great. There's so much going on in this area. My book, The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight, Random House just released the new edition with all new climate change information last month, and a movie that Leo DiCaprio is producing that I'm in is going to be on climate change, is going to be premiering January 5th in Norway, in Oslo. The government is going to be projecting it on the inside of the Capitol buildings.
Wow.
It's some cool stuff going on. And in your world, how do people get to your to the video, to the stream that you're going to be running?
Well, they go right to our social media. It'll be live streamed on our Facebook as well as a number of other live stream Facebook.
Great. So check out Bernie Sanders' Facebook page. And before you go, Senator, I believe you have a new book out, don't you? I have a copy of it here.
Thank you. It's called Where We Go From Here. Yeah. It talks about what I and other progressives have been doing over the last 2 years to oppose this outrageous Trump agenda and his behavior and his efforts to divide us up based on the color of our skin or where we come from, and talks about my views about where we want to go from here.
That is spectacular. Senator Bernie Sanders, thanks so much for being with us, Senator. It's
okay. Thank you, Tom.
Always great having you on the program. Senator Bernie Sanders, his website, sanders.senate.gov. You can tweet him at SenSanders, SenSanders. And, boy, a lot going on, and Bernie's right at the center of a lot of it. We'll be back. Jeff Merkley is going to drop by in the next hour. I'll be picking up your phone calls in just a second. And, on we go. More of the news of the day, too. It sure looks to me like Trump is going down. Do you think he can weasel out of this one?
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archive.
I guess that's really the question, right? He has already committed in open more crimes than Richard Nixon was accused of. And welcome back. I've got to say, I'm still in shock from my conversation with Senator Brown, that the Trump tax con job literally has built into it a 50% reduction on federal income taxes for money that companies make when they manufacture products overseas. So if General Motors and GM is actually building a factory in Mexico right now, as they're closing 7 factories in the United States, and they're going to get a 50% reduction on their federal income tax once they build that factory in Mexico. I'm just blown away. That is just the most amazing thing. So anyhow, a lot of other things in the news. I believe the U.S. This is something that I thought was pretty shocking too. U.S. antitrust enforcement. Remember, I told you I've said this many times. In the early 1980s, Ronald Reagan decided that he was no longer going to enforce the Sherman Antitrust Act. It was 82 or 83, right around there, and it was just in the presidency before his, during Jimmy Carter's presidency, that AT&T had finally been broken up. Right? It was a process that began during Nixon and ended during Jimmy Carter's presidency. It took a while to break a giant monopolistic corporation into 7 smaller companies, but they did. And shareholder value went up, innovation went up. Suddenly there was competition in America. There was an explosion. The prices went down. Telecommunications became more readily available. Lots of good stuff came out of that antitrust enforcement. Breaking up big companies is almost always not only good for the company. I mean, the company itself becomes something else, but let's say the shareholders of the company. If you owned, 100 shares of AT&T stock after it was all broken up, you would have owned, 12 shares of Southern Bell and 12 shares of Central Bell and 12 shares of Pacific Bell or whatever they broke it up into. But when people actually looked at those numbers after the fact, what they found was that, in fact, there was more shareholder value, that it had actually increased. In other words, the value of people's investment in AT&T went up when AT&T got broken up. And, of course, the value to our country and to the world went up when AT&T got broken up. So that's the good news of antitrust enforcement, but Reagan basically stopped that. And this is an article from the Financial Times by Karim Shubar, and he writes, criminal antitrust enforcement under Donald Trump has fallen to its lowest rate since the 1970s. Fewer than 20 new cases were publicly filed by the Department of Justice in the most recent fiscal year, a level last seen in 1972, almost 5 decades ago. And basically back then, they didn't have to break up so many big companies because there weren't so many big companies. Breaking up Ma Bell this was a kind of government private corporation cooperation thing that had been going on for years and years. And the slowdown, they write, in fiscal year 2018 followed a similar drop in cases filed the previous year, suggesting a prolonged lull in new indictments of criminal cartels. You get this? I mean, this is the Financial Times. A lull in new indictments of criminal cartels as long-running investigations into the auto parts industry and financial services wind down. The Trump administration, corporate crime? We don't want to know about corporate crime. Are you kidding? We'll be right back. Welcome back. 9 minutes before the hour. Thom Hartmann here with you. Lisa in Niles, Ohio. Hey, Lisa. What's up?
Hi, Tom. How are you?
I'm great, but I'll get better. I hope the same is true for you.
Right.
Okay. What's up?
No surprise. Every next thing I hear about Trump and how he's been involved with Russia doesn't shock me. But last night on, I don't know what show it was, George W.'s former U.S. attorney mentioned why the Republican Congress, never stands up to Trump. And I've had my own ideas. And he mentioned that Putin probably has something on most of them. And, I kind of thought that occasionally in the back of my mind. But, how far has Putin gotten into our government? Bernie Sanders mentioned the oil, how much oil they're sitting on over in Russia. Mm-hmm. That would explain a lot. How come these Republican congressmen, they're smarter. They know what's going on. Why are their hands tied? It's not just Trump. They're not afraid of just Trump.
As much as I'm, more than willing to point out the foibles, failures, and outright, criminal activity of oligarchs and Putin and whatnot, I'm really, Putin's concern is, or one of them, is that as the price of oil falls, the revenue to Russia drops also because it's the major, it's their major industry. It's a major source for his country. So he obviously has an interest in oil and in denying global climate change, all that kind of thing. But the same is true of the Koch brothers. The same is true of Koch Industries. The same is true of ExxonMobil. And I think that thinking that Republican members of Congress who are willing to lie to us about climate and things like that, that they're doing that because Putin got his hooks into them. Well, I think that's more of a stretch than we need. It's fairly obvious the Koch brothers own these people, and in the Koch network, and they basically own the Republican Party because they've got. The Koch apparatus, the various organizations on the ground, Americans for Prosperity and whatnot. In aggregate, they are larger than the Republican Party. They have more employees than the Republican Party. They have more offices than the Republican Party. They had a better database than the Republican Party. Party. In fact, the Republican Party is now buying databases from them. And so the Republican Party knows that they have to dance to the petro-billionaires' tune. If they don't, they're screwed. They get primaried. They get tossed out.
I totally agree with you. When I said about Putin pulling the strings, I think Putin's agenda more is just to cause chaos in our government. I don't think it's most specifically related.
I think he wanted to get Trump elected because Trump was, because Obama had put sanctions on him and because Hillary Clinton was talking about, kicking his butt. I mean, financially speaking. And so, Trump was his guy. That just, that's enlightened self-interest. I mean,
but the Koch brothers don't specifically like Trump.
No, I don't. Well, who knows?
All of Republican Congress.
But they like his deregulation, and they like his Supreme Court nominees, and so they're willing to go along with that. Lisa, I need to move along, but thank you for the call. Your points are all very well made. Lewis in Chicago. Hey, Lewis, what's up?
Hey, before you had told me that Cohen's just a real scum, unscrupulous guy, and now you want to believe him?
Michael Cohen, you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, even scum, unscrupulous people, although I don't think that I use those specific words to describe Michael Cohen.
Roughly.
But basically, Michael Cohen is a mobster who was inside a crime family, the Trump crime family. And he was the consigliere for the Trump crime family for years and years. Now he's looking at years in prison. He's singing. And he's demonstrably telling the truth because, there's lots and lots of documentary evidence to back it up. So, yeah, Donald Trump was negotiating with oligarchs in Russia and presumably with Putin in Russia to build a Trump Tower hotel in downtown Moscow throughout the campaign in 2016, right up until the time that he was elected. And because he didn't expect to be elected, he came out and he told us during the primaries, I'm going to be the first guy to ever run for president and make money doing it. And he thought that, he kicked off his whole campaign because Gwen Stefani was making more than he did. And he hired this PR company to put together 3 phony stunts, his Trump Tower stunt and his first 2 rallies. And they hired actors at $50 an hour to show up for these 3 things. And, but Trump didn't figure that there would be that many racists in America who would be all excited about Mexican rapists. But there are, and they showed up at his rally, and boom, it's like the producers. It's like the old movie. He intended to lose. He didn't even have an acceptance speech written. He literally intended to lose. But he had friends in high places. But his goal was to build what would probably be the crown jewel of his empire. If he could build a hotel in downtown Moscow, if he could build a Trump Tower in Moscow, he could make so much money. I mean, Moscow is one of the major cities in the world. It is now, Louise and I were there back in the early 90s or maybe even late 80s, and we were also there a couple of years ago, I think 2015, 16, whatever it was, and it is like night and day. I mean, it's gone from third world, Moscow has, the Russian countryside I can't speak for, but it has gone from kind of third world, everything's falling apart, to first world, gleaming, Mercedes dealers and Rolls-Royce dealers and Tiffany and Gucci and, it's just, really high-end restaurants and everything else. And so if Trump could put a hotel there in this, major city in the United States, in the world, a major city in the world, that might be the point at which he actually starts making money, rather than having to run grifts, rather than having to run money laundering operations, to make his money. I mean, he's been running this grift ever since I think his 3rd or 4th or 5th bankruptcy. So anyhow, we'll be back. Stick around.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
Speech TV is in their fund drive right now, their fundraising drive. And so it would be a great time for you to call 877-378-8669. 877-378-8669. And of course, you can go to the Free Speech TV website and donate there as well. Please be sure to mention the show. There are a lot of great goodies that Free Speech TV is offering right now as part of the funds drive. And in fact, there's quite a few. But the important thing is to call 877-378-8669. Here's some information on one of the things that you can get. With a $72 contribution, you get the new edition. We spent, Troy Miller and I spent a year and a half going through all the research and updating everything and getting this thing exactly right with all the new climate change information, the last hours of ancient sunlight. That's with a $72 contribution, autographed by the author. Well, it's that time of year again, and I really love these fund drives because they are this is the Free Speech TV membership fund drive, fundraising, whatever they officially call it, because it's the opportunity for you and me to support this network, for us to help make a television network that is actually telling the truth about really important issues that the corporate media literally will not touch. You know, the disparities in wealth, why the billionaires are getting richer and richer, where taxes should be, the inheritance tax, the net neutrality. I mean, nuclear power, it's global warming. They'll dance around the edges of that, but they always have some guy on going, well, it's not as bad as we think. You know how this goes. Free Speech TV is the truth-telling network. It's the little engine that could, and this is our opportunity to keep this network going, to keep this network on the air. 3 or 4 times a year, Free Speech TV comes to you and says, hey, please help our network out. Please support the network, and in this case, help support the Thom Hartmann Program on the network. And you can do that right now by calling 877-378-8669. 877-378-8669. Your chance to be part of Free Speech TV, to help Free Speech TV, to promote Free Speech TV, to make Free Speech TV work. So, you know, it's just a great time and a great opportunity. And if you put it in the context of this nation's history, it's an incredibly important time. We need Free Speech TV. And I mean, it's just amazing what Free Speech TV does. They're running an entire television network on a budget that's just a little over $3 million a year. I mean, it's just, as I recall, and it's just incredible. You know, extraordinary people at Free Speech TV doing really great work and working their butts off. And you know, for not a whole lot of pay or recognition, but you know, God bless them. This enterprise is really worth your support. So I know Giving Tuesday has come and gone, but this is, you know, 'tis the season, as it were. Plus, it's, you know, we're coming up on the end of the year, and your contributions to Free Speech TV are tax deductible. So be sure to ask for a receipt. With a $20 gift, you get a Free Speech TV 3x8 clear window sticker, a Free Speech TV sticker. It's kind of cool. With a $60 gift, you get the Thom Hartmann Tag You're It coffee mug. With a $72 gift, you get the 2018 edition of The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight by me. Now, this is a book that I wrote back in the 90s, predicting that there was going to be a crisis in the future, and it was going to have to do with ancient sunlight, which, of course, is oil. Plants captured sunlight hundreds of millions of years ago. It got buried in the earth as dead plant matter, compressed over time, heat and pressure converted it into oil. And now that oil is like, you know, now as we're burning it, we're releasing that sunlight energy back into the atmosphere. And not a good thing. Not just the energy, of course, we're also releasing the carbon, which was the storage mechanism for that energy. So Troy Miller and I went through and revisited all the science in the book, because the original edition was 1996, and then it was updated in 2004, as I recall. And we just updated the book again for 2018 to have the most current data, including all the new information about methane. That's with a $72 gift. With a $120 gift, you get a Free Speech TV t-shirt, black with the logo and the sticker. With a $120 that gift can be also $10 a month for a year. With a $240 gift, which could be $20 a month for a year, Louise and I are going to put together a webinar, a live online seminar. We're calling it Personal Growth in NLP, and we're going to go through some of the core principles of neuro-linguistic programming, which is a technology for communication, for improving relationships, communication, work, I mean, all dimensions of your life. And the only people who are going to be invited are the people who have contributed $240 or more to Free Speech TV. So that's with the $240 level, or $20 a month for a year. And it's gonna happen sometime in the next few months. With a $360 gift, you get a 5-book special: The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight, Unequal Protection, The Thom Hartmann Reader, Rebooting the American Dream, and those are all by me. And then Greg Palast's book, The Best Democracy Money Can Buy. I'm not sure if that's his book or if it's the DVD. It's one or the other. And with a $480 gift, you get the 5-book special, plus the Free Speech TV, and that can be $40 a month for a year, plus the Free Speech TV t-shirt, plus the Thom Hartmann Tag You're at Coffee mug. So, you know, it's kind of all of the above with $480 gift. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Washington, or not Washington, D.C., come to Portland, you know, where we have now moved, and you can see how we can produce a nationwide television program out of a little tiny studio, out of this little office, in this little office building here in Portland, and have fun doing it. You can see what we do and what Free Speech TV is doing. And you know how tightly we can wring a very small budget and actually produce something. And I'll take you to lunch and we'll have a great time. So please call now, 877-378-8669. Thank you.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. On the line with us is Senator Jeff Merkley, my senator, one of my two senators. Merkley.senate.gov is the website. Sen Jeff Merkley is the Twitter handle. And Senator, welcome back to the program.
It's great to be with you.
Thank you for doing such a marvelous job representing this state and our nation. You are just absolutely one of the best. You've got a big drug pricing bill rolling out. Tell us about this.
Oh, absolutely. Well, we're just being completely ripped off here in the United States of America, where we fund the research on which a lot of the new drugs are developed, and yet we pay more than the Canadians or the Europeans or the Japanese for those drugs. And why should that be the case? We've done the upfront investment. We should get at least as good a deal here in America as elsewhere around the world. So my bill basically says you can't charge more in America than the median price in a group of 11 major countries that have these drugs available.
Wow. What kind of support do you have? How do you see this playing out?
Well, we're just rolling out the bill today, and we're going to build support over the break and reintroduce in the new Congress, hopefully with a whole team behind us. Yeah. But I must say this whole concept is based on that. The discussion is often, well, let's have Medicare negotiate the price of drugs. And I love that idea. I've supported that idea. But that only affects the drug prices for folks who are essentially 65 and up. Right. Why shouldn't everybody in America get a fair deal? And so this is a fair deal for all, low drug price act.
So basically what you're doing is, I mean, all those other countries that you named have national health care programs. They're all negotiating prices with the drug companies. These are prices at which we know that the drug companies can make a good profit because they continue to sell into these markets, and they're also probably the lowest prices that you can negotiate for reasonable quantities of drugs. And so by aggregating these countries together and coming up with the median or the average price, you're letting them do the negotiating for us.
That's correct. We're piggybacking on that, and the advantage of that is we get out of the situation of kind of insider negotiations and corruption that can inhabit the relationship between powerful drug companies and the government.
Right.
So let's take, for example, Lantus, a diabetes drug. The U.S. price is about $373 per unit, but the price under this bill in these countries, the median price would be $62. 373 versus 62. A hell of a lot better deal for Americans.
Wow. We were talking on this program a couple days ago about these two mothers who went to, I think it was Sanofi, or I'm not sure how to pronounce the company's name, but this big drug company that is one of the larger manufacturers of insulin in the United States. And they had raised their price from $25 or $50 per whatever it is, up to $300 to $500. And in both cases, their young adult children, diabetics, type 1 diabetics, were cutting their insulin doses because they literally could not afford to buy at the level that they had to have. And they both died as a consequence of it. These two women tried to deliver the ashes of their children to the company. And the company, of course, called the police. I shouldn't say, of course. The company shamelessly called the police and had them, escorted out. But this is, there's real world consequences to this stuff that you are taking on. This isn't just about, hey, I got ripped off at the drugstore.
Well, our statistics show that of those families who are taking prescriptions, 80% of them are doing some form of reduction in their pills, cutting their pills in half or something of that nature, and so it's a huge impact, and so we've it's a stressful system, it's an expensive system, and it's where Americans are essentially paying a massive tax to support our drug companies that the rest of the world doesn't pay. The rest of the developed world, these are prosperous nations that are reference nations like Canada, France, Germany, Australia, the Netherlands, Japan, Italy. If they can get the drug for $62, we shouldn't be paying $373. Or take a cholesterol drug, Crestor, that is $216 here in the U.S. It's $27 under this bill.
Wow.
Almost a tenth of the price. And so and this continues through a whole list. I mean, we know we've been overpriced because we know when the Veterans Administration negotiates, they get a much better deal than Medicare does. But really, we're paying more everywhere. It's a massive driver of the increase in healthcare costs. We had this examination over a 6-month period of how many drugs went up in price and how many went down. And essentially for everyone that came down a little bit, because sometimes the administration says, well, we got a number of drugs that have come down in price. For everyone that came down, almost 100 went up.
Wow. Yeah, I'm not at all surprised. So if people want to call their senators and support your legislation, what should they say?
They should say the Low Drug Price Act. That makes a lot of sense. We shouldn't be ripped off here in America. Please join the bill.
Senator Jeff Merkley's Low Price Drug Act. Yeah, got it. If I may, before you run, ask your thoughts on what's going on right now with Michael Cohen flipping apparently on Donald Trump, and it looks like apparently right up to the day of the election. In fact, even after the election, Donald Trump was trying to negotiate a hotel in Moscow. It looks like his plan was lose the election. I mean, he didn't even have an acceptance speech written. Lose the election, and then immediately, off the fame of being the Republican candidate, immediately open your hotel in Moscow and become richer and richer and richer. And he like sold out his country for a hotel.
Well, it
looks that way to me.
Anymore.
I'm sorry.
It's just been such an extraordinary set of conflicts of interest that extend to this day, because even as president, he's involved in taking money from all kinds of propositions where foreign governments are happy to steer businesses his way. Yeah. And this, of course, is basically banned by the Constitution, and yet there's just no shame. No shame, no integrity. It's what we have. It's why we have to make sure that he's not reelected in 2020.
Yeah, at the very least. Yeah, absolutely. Senator Jeff Merkley, Senator, thanks so much for dropping by today. It's great. It's always great talking with you. You're always
very
welcome here.
Tom. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care.
Senator Merkley's website is merkley.senate.gov. You can tweet him at SEN Jeff Merkley, Merkley. One of the really great members of Congress. And I'm so glad he's my senator. We'll be back 13 minutes past the hour. We'll be back with your calls and more of the news of the day right after this.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
It's coming up on 14 minutes past the hour. We'll be right back. And welcome back. I guess it's Senate Day. That's our third senator today. Tony in Russellville, Arkansas. Hey, Tony, what's on your mind today? Tony in Russellville? Going once, going twice. Sure, Tony's on line 3. Oh, no, I'm sorry, he's on line 1. I'm going to put him on hold here. All of our other callers are listening to commercial stations, so at the moment. So anyhow, this is, some great legislation here. Sherrod Brown introducing legislation to lower drug prices. Jeff Merkley introducing legislation to lower drug prices. Sherrod Brown introducing legislation to do away with a tax break for companies that send their manufacturing to Mexico and Canada and whatnot. It's incredible. Tony in Russellville, Arkansas. Hey, Tony, you want to try it again?
Yes, sorry about that. I was listening to the show. I didn't hear you.
Yeah, you got to listen. You always have to listen to your phone because there's a delay. So what's up?
Okay. I wanted to thank you for putting Mr. Sanders on. Great things that he said. They are trying to divide and conquer us through race and many, many other things. Got to be honest with you, though. I think Trump's the Jesus candidate.
What do you mean?
Well, he hasn't done anything wrong, and we're crucifying him on the news, right?
Are you serious?
Yeah.
You think Trump has done nothing wrong?
No, well, I told you about the assisted suicide psyop that we just went through, and now we're going to see if we, don't allow men to get laid, how violent we're going to get. That's the murder psyop, right?
I think that I'm being punked. Tony, thanks a lot. Sure, flag that phone number, please. Rural America's own private Flint. This is an amazing story. Polluted water too dangerous to drink. Rural communities call it their own private Flint, Michigan. This is from Jack Healy in the New York Times, a diffuse creeping water crisis tied to industrial farms and slack regulations that for years has tainted thousands of residential wells across the Midwest and beyond. And, they're talking in Wisconsin, chemical-tainted wells, New Hampshire, chemical-tainted wells, Arizona, chemical-tainted wells. We have all over the country, literally all over the country, people are being poisoned. Their water supplies, particularly their wells, are being poisoned by our agricultural activity and our industrial activity. And it's getting worse because of Trump's deregulation. He is actually making the situation worse. Sampling by the USGS, the U.S. Geological Survey, found contamination in 1 of every 5 American wells. There are a few water quality rules that regulate wells. Therefore, you've got no company that you can call when you've got a problem. There's no backup system. There's no way to fix the contamination. You've got people all in Wisconsin, for example. A state report recently found that as many as 42,000 of the state's private wells were likely to exceed the federal health standards for nitrates, which comes from fertilizer and manure spreading. Nitrates have been linked to a dangerous blood condition in babies and may increase cancer risk in adults. They tell the story of one of those wells belongs to Carol Mount and Clark Elmore, whose home sits atop the sandy permeable soil just down the road from a 3,000 cow dairy. And they're being poisoned by the cows. Ms. Mount said, "Our water is screwed." 40% of her neighbors whose wells were tested this year also exceeded the federal standards. Is the cow company, is the whatever it is, going to be paying them? I don't think so. 18 minutes past the hour. And so it would be a great time for you to call 877-378-8669. 877-378-8669. And of course, you can go to the Free Speech TV website and donate there as well. Please be sure to mention the show. There are a lot of great goodies that Free Speech TV is offering right now as part of the funds drive. And in fact, there's quite a few. But the important thing is to call 877-378-8669. Here's some information on one of the things that you can get. With a $72 contribution, you get the new edition. We spent, Troy Miller and I spent a year and a half going through all the research and updating everything and getting this thing exactly right with all the new climate change information, the last hours of ancient sunlight. That's with a $72 contribution, autographed by the author.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
It's your lemon. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. And it looks like it's all crashing in. And Donald Trump goes out to the cameras and says, "Oh, everybody, this is all very public. Everybody knew we were negotiating for a Trump hotel in Moscow all through 2016. No, he was lying about it, actually, on stage, during debates and press conferences and news events. His people were lying about it. His lawyer lied to Congress about it. That's what he just pled guilty to today. But somehow Trump goes before the TV and goes, "Oh, that's not a big deal. We all knew about that." This is how he has gotten away with all this stuff up to this point. And it's really and truly mind-boggling. You go through the Nixon impeachment, the articles of impeachment against Nixon, and it all started essentially with Watergate, with Nixon trying to break into the Democrats' headquarters. Well, somebody on behalf of Donald Trump, and it sure looks like it was Russia or Russians, broke into the Democratic headquarters to help Trump. How is that different from what Nixon did? Oh, it's not. It's just a high-tech version of it. And then Trump lies about it. And then Trump, the thing that's most mind-boggling to me is what I learned when I watched Michael Moore's newest movie, Fahrenheit 11/9. He opens the movie with Donald Trump, and he says, "You can thank Gwen Stefani for Donald Trump." And I'm like, what? And then he goes into the story and he documents it. I mean, he actually talks to people who were there and all this kind of stuff. Gwen Stefani was making more money than Donald Trump was. They were both on NBC. Donald Trump was getting paid whatever he was getting paid. Gwen Stefani was getting paid a couple $1,000,000 a year more than Donald Trump was. He was offended by that. And he figured this is also an indication that NBC has a bigger budget than they're pretending. And so he went to his PR people. And this is essentially a matter of public record now. Well, not even essentially. It is a matter of public record now. So Trump went to his PR people and said, "Let's hatch a scheme that'll cause NBC to realize that I'm worth more money than they're paying me right now." And the scheme was he was going to announce that he was running for president as a Republican. And he was going to have 3 events. They organized 3 events. There was going to be the event in Trump Tower, and there were going to be 2 small rallies. And at the event for Trump Tower and at both rallies, they hired a bunch of actors, people who make a living as extras in movies, paid them $50 an hour. I don't know if they did this with SAG-AFTRA's approval or not, but they hired a bunch of actors, paid them $50 an hour, and said all you have to do is wildly cheer. And so, Trump comes down in Trump Tower and does his rambling riff about, evil rapists, brown people coming from Mexico. And then they were going to do these 2 events. And then at that point, they were going to go back to NBC and say, pay us more money and we'll stop the campaign. This was literally the plan. This is literally why Donald Trump announced that he was running for president, was to get a higher paycheck from NBC. And when he showed up at the first rally, he was expecting there to be a couple hundred actors there being paid $50 an hour, just like at Trump Tower. That's all it was, actors. Right? He was expecting actors at the first rally. But guess what? It turns out that there's a whole bunch of people in America who are pretty hysterical about brown people from Mexico. And they showed up at his rally. And he was like, whoa, this is kind of cool. Now, he still wasn't talking about build the wall, and he still wasn't talking about lock her up. But he went off on a couple of riffs, some of his racist riffs, and the crowd went wild, and Trump was like, oh, this feels good. I love it when people love me like this. And so he said to his people, hey, let's see how far we can ride this, right? This is fun, and we can make money. We can sell merchandise. I mean, there's a money-making opportunity here. And in fact, he bragged, in one of his rallies fairly early on, that he would probably be the first guy in history to make money running for president. Well, he wasn't the first guy to make money running for president. That's a scam that Newt Gingrich has run over and over again. It's a scam that Rick Santorum has run over and over again. These guys who have absolutely no chance of becoming president, they run for president just so that they can raise money and then keep the money after the election, after they lose the election. It's like the producers. I mean, that's how Santorum has made a lot of his money. It's how Newt Gingrich has made a lot of his money. It's what Donald Trump was going to do. And throughout this time, he's like, well, I still have to run a business. And if I become president, don't worry, I'll put my companies in a blind trust like Jimmy Carter did. And by the way, Jimmy Carter almost lost his farm, his peanut farm, because he put it in a blind trust, and the guy who was running the trust kind of mismanaged it. But Jimmy Carter was an ethical man. He didn't have anything, he didn't know what was going on. He didn't want to know what was going on. He was busy being president of the United States. But through the campaign, Donald Trump is thinking, okay, my profile is going up and up and up. I've wanted to build a hotel in Moscow for years. Maybe Putin and the Russian billionaires will take me seriously now that I'm a serious contender for president, now that I'm up on the stage with Jeb Bush and Mitt Romney and Lindsey Graham, serious people, right? Or at least people that are taken seriously in Republican circles. And so in the background, he's trying to cut this deal with the Russian oligarchs. Which one of you guys wants to build the building? I'm not going to put my money up on this. I'm not investing in this. You're investing in this. You Russians, you build the hotel, put my name on it, and you pay me millions of dollars a year for the rights to my name. That's how the Trump brand works. That is the Trump business, or it has been since his last bankruptcy. And interestingly, now 4 or 5 buildings have taken his name off of them. And, I think the Trump brand has been seriously tarnished by his presidency. But anyhow, we now know the price that Donald Trump was willing to take to sell out his country was a hotel in Moscow. And right up until the day of the election, he was convinced he was going to lose. And immediately after he lost, he was going to start building a hotel in Moscow. He was working out the details. And then after he won, they had to lie and say, no, we weren't doing that. We wouldn't do that. That would be unethical. We're not unethical. We're president. Right. And not only that, Michael Cohen testified this morning, or the papers that were filed with the court testified, that both Trump and Cohen briefed members of the Trump crime family about this. So presumably Don Jr., Eric, Ivanka, Jared, at the very least, were told, hey, the Trump Tower Moscow thing is really rolling along. Look at this. We're getting there. We're going to be big. But the thing that amazes me is that he is literally committing these crimes out in open. And as a result, we all seem to be going, well, okay, that was a crime. Next. I mean, at what point does the outrage just explode?
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
You think that Donald Trump is going to get away with this? I mean, that's a bizarre thought. Is it possible? We'll be right back. Well, it's that time of year again, and I really love these fund drives because this is the Free Speech TV membership fund drive fundraising, whatever they officially call it, because it's the opportunity for you and me to support this network, for us to help make a television network that is actually telling the truth about really important issues that the corporate media literally will not touch. You know, the disparities in wealth, why the billionaires are getting richer and richer, where taxes should be, the inheritance tax, the net neutrality. I mean, the nuclear power, it's global warming. They'll dance around the edges of that, but they always have some guy on going, well, it's not as bad as we think. You know how this goes. Free Speech TV is the truth-telling network. It's the little engine that could. And this is our opportunity to keep this network going, to keep this network on the air. 3 or 4 times a year, Free Speech TV comes to you and says, hey, please help our network out. Please support the network, and in this case, help support the Thom Hartmann Program on the network. And you can do that right now by calling 877-378-8669. 877-378-8669. Your chance to be part of Free Speech TV, to help Free Speech TV, to promote Free Speech TV, to make Free Speech TV work. So, you know, it's just a great time and a great opportunity. And if you put it in the context of this nation's history, it's an incredibly important time. We need Free Speech TV. And I mean, it's just amazing what Free Speech TV does. They're running an entire television network on a budget that's just a little over $3 million a year. I mean, it's just, as I recall, and it's just incredible. You know, extraordinary people at Free Speech TV doing really great work and working their butts off. And you know, for not a whole lot of pay or recognition, but you know, God bless them. This enterprise is really worth your support. So I know Giving Tuesday has come and gone, but this is, you know, 'tis the season, as it were. Plus, it's, you know, we're coming up on the end of the year, and your contributions to Free Speech TV are tax deductible. So be sure to ask for a receipt. With a $20 gift, you get a Free Speech TV 3x8 clear window sticker, a Free Speech TV sticker. It's kind of cool. With a $60 gift, you get the Thom Hartmann Tag You're It coffee mug. With a $72 gift, you get the 2018 edition of The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight by me. Now, this is a book that I wrote back in the 90s, predicting that there was going to be a crisis in the future, and it was going to have to do with ancient sunlight, which, of course, is oil. Plants captured sunlight hundreds of millions of years ago. It got buried in the earth as dead plant matter, compressed over time, heat and pressure converted it into oil. And now that oil is like, you know, now as we're burning it, we're releasing that sunlight energy back into the atmosphere. And not a good thing. Not just the energy, of course, we're also releasing the carbon, which was the storage mechanism for that energy. So Troy Miller and I went through and revisited all the science in the book, because the original edition was 1996, and then it was updated in 2004, as I recall. And we just updated the book again for 2018 to have the most current data, including all the new information about methane. That's with a $72 gift. With a $120 gift, you get a Free Speech TV t-shirt, black with the logo and the sticker. With a now at $120, that gift can be also $10 a month for a year. With a $240 gift, which could be $20 a month for a year. Louise and I are going to put together a webinar, a live online seminar. We're calling it Personal Growth in NLP, and we're going to go through some of the core principles of neuro-linguistic programming, which is a technology for communication, for improving relationships, communication, work, I mean, all dimensions of your life. And the only people who are going to be invited are the people who have contributed $240 or more to Free Speech TV. So that's with the $240 level, or $20 a month for a year. And it's gonna happen sometime in the next few months. With a $360 gift, you get a 5-book special: The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight, Unequal Protection, The Thom Hartmann Reader, Rebooting the American Dream, and those are all by me. And then Greg Palast's book, The Best Democracy Money Can Buy. I'm not sure if that's his book or if it's the DVD. It's one or the other. And with a $480 gift, You get the 5-book special, plus the Free Speech TV, and that can be $40 a month for a year, plus the Free Speech TV T-shirt, plus the Thom Hartmann Tag You're at Coffee mug. So, it's kind of all of the above with $480 gift. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Washington, or not Washington, D.C., come to Portland, where we have now moved, and you can see how we can produce a nationwide television program out of a little tiny studio, out of this little office, in this little office building here in Portland, and have fun doing it. You can see what we do and what Free Speech TV is doing, and how tightly we can wring a very small budget and actually produce something. And I'll take you to lunch, and we'll have a great time. So please call now, 877-378-8669. Thank you. With a $20 contribution, and $20 may not sound like a lot of money, but to Free Speech TV, actually it is. This is an entire television network that runs on a little tiny budget. For the $20 contribution, you get a Free Speech TV sticker, 3x8 clear window with a logo of Free Speech TV. Please call now.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Did I mention we'll be getting Thom Hartmann here with you. Jordan in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Hey, Jordan, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
I've been wanting to ask this question since Trump was first elected because I saw the article that he paid actors to be at his first 2 campaign rallies.
Right.
And since he paid actors to do so and the press covered it and never called him out on that, he created fake news. And I think that's why he always says news is fake, because in his mind, he was able to create fake news, and no one ever called him out on it.
Oh, and he's been doing it his whole life. I mean,
Right.
he was Donald Barron or something like that.
Right.
Or John Barron, I guess, was the phony name that he used. Yeah. It was kind of a joke among reporters in New York City, when they get these calls from John Barron. And they all knew it was Trump, right? Trump knew that they knew it was Trump, but they played this little charade, and yeah, he influenced the news in New York too. It was mostly the celebrity gossip stuff. I mean, it wasn't the real business news kind of stuff. So yeah, excellent point, Jordan. And I would add to that, and I almost went down that off on that tangent in my last rant, is that his whole thing about build the wall and lock her up. These were 2 memes that were brought to him by Cambridge Analytica. That they hired, Robert Mercer and his daughter Rebecca hired when it became clear that Donald Trump was actually a serious contender. And they decided, okay, let's get serious about this race, this billionaire and his daughter, and some of the other billionaires, presumably. Let's get serious about this race because this guy might actually become president. So let's place a bet on this thing, and let's make sure that he's got the very best memes. And so they crowd tested this stuff. They focus group tested it, and they found that lock her up and build a wall. And Trump was skeptical of both of them. He thought that he thought that lock her up sounded crass, and he thought build a wall. Who gives a damn about what's going on the border with Mexico? But boy, they worked really, really well when he tested them on the crowds, and he never looked back.
I agree. I completely agree. Thank you for taking my call.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks to Jordan for the call. Cora in Taos, New Mexico. Hey, Cora, what's up?
Well, I would suggest that Donald Trump is running the country like a mafia don. And so you've got like the fossil fuel companies buying exclusive rights to, run the exclusive on supplying the fuel to the country. You've got the Saudis paying protection money so they can run things how they want to do. And then his followers are like part of the mob family because they think they're going to score big at some point. And they don't care if they have to go to jail because he'll bail them out.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
and he's been running his business that way for his entire life, apparently.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's done business actually with the mafia.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just not that
we have a mobster as president.
Yes.
I mean,
exactly.
this is the thing that needs to just be said right out loud. We have a guy who worked with the New York mob. Fat Tony, whatever his name was, Sklerno or something like that. I mean, he's documented to have worked with mobsters, to have hung out with mobsters. He runs his company like a mobster. it's just and now he's trying to cut these deals, these backroom deals with the people who are being indicted to scam the special prosecutor. The special prosecutor's catching him on it. We'll see where this all goes, Cora, but it sure looks to me like a RICO indictment is coming down the road. Racketeering, influence, corrupt organization. Yeah, which is what they use to go after the mafia. Cora, thanks for the call. Brett in Goose Creek, South Carolina. Hey, Brett, what's on your mind today?
Yes, sir. I just wanted to say, I think Donald Trump's just a charismatic face that was basically bought by the GOP to push their lame agenda with their stupid ideas that nobody likes, and he's just a face that can deliver on that. And he's making out like a pig, with a lot of money and cash, and he doesn't even care.
Yep. Broadly speaking, I agree. Although I think that, as I laid out earlier, he got into the game because he wanted to get more money out of General Electric, or out of NBC rather. GE owned NBC at the time.
Exactly.
And
exactly right about that.
Yeah. So there's a certain level of opportunism. I mean, you'll recall that he was in Mar-a-Lago the night that the tax bill passed, and he walked into the dining room, which was filled with people who could pay $200,000 a year to be members of the club, and he said, "I just made you all a lot richer." And, this is after he lied to our face about how he was going to cut taxes on working people and he said, people like me are going to really take a hit. I'm going to have to pay more taxes. Oh, my God. But I'm willing to do it for the country. It was a complete lie. The guy is a complete liar. Brett, excellent point. Thank you. Melissa in Evansville, Indiana. Hey, Melissa, what's on your mind?
Hey, Tom. Thanks for putting me on. Back in your first hour, you were talking with Sherrod Brown and talking about the GM factory. Well, I've been thinking about this for a while. Why is it that we can't take this opportunity, retool those factories, reteach the people to do other things and make solar panels and wind turbines and stuff like that?
We certainly could. I mean, that's the core essence of the Green Jobs Bill. Actually, variations on it have been introduced by a number of legislators. Bernie is probably the most well-known, but a number of Democrats have put together legislation that would not just rebuild the infrastructure of the United States, but rebuild it in a way that is green. And
do you think that the new House coming in, that maybe they might be able to get something done towards that?
There's no doubt in my mind that Nancy Pelosi will get that kind of stuff passed. She did when she was running the House before. The problem is that, once the Senate was, in the second year of Obama's presidency, at the end of the second year, the Senate flipped Republican, and that was the end of that. I mean, nothing, Nancy was still getting great legislation passed, but it was always dying in the Senate, and I think it will. And the irony is that, Melissa, if your suggestion was taken to heart by the Republicans, and they did this, they could avoid the recession that is coming if they did it right away.
No kidding.
Because it would pour another $1 trillion into the economy, which would be a good goose for a couple of years, and it would pour it in at the bottom rather than the top, so it would have far more impact than the tax cut. But they're not going to do it because it would help out working people and because it would rebuild America's infrastructure. And the billionaires who own the Republican Party are quite happy, thank you very much, to have a country that's essentially sliding into third world chaos as long as they get richer and richer and richer. Melissa, excellent points all. Thank you for the call. Johnny in Lamarck, Texas. Hey, Johnny, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom, I just heard a few minutes ago you mentioned with a caller about how Donald Trump used to pretend to be some other person as a publicist promoting himself to the New York media back in the day. And my question is, I'm wondering if any of these New York journalists had any presence of mind back then to maybe capture a recording of him for old time's sake, and if that would be
those recordings are out there, Johnny. Those recordings are out there. There are, in fact, you can. I've seen them online, so I'm sure that you could DuckDuckGo it, and find them. Because I've listened to them. There are recordings of Donald Trump, and the one that is the one that I heard online was Donald Trump talking about what a great lover he was. So this guy.
I would love to have that played on national TV for his daughters to hear.
Yeah, well, I think they already have been. I think his daughters are hustlers. I don't know about Tiffany, but I think Ivanka is a hustler. A grifter just like her father. And
definitely.
we've seen all kinds of proof of it.
Must have some kind of embarrassment potential.
I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, Kushner, his dad went to prison for defrauding investors, and Kushner's following in his footsteps. I mean, I just don't think that they have any shame. I think these guys are world-class grifters. Johnny, thanks for the call. Rich in Sheridan, Wyoming. Hey, Rich, what's up?
Not much, Tom. Thanks for taking my call. I was wondering, do you think that Nancy Pelosi is going to bring impeachment proceedings against President Donald Duck? And I'll take my comment off the air.
Yeah. I don't know the answer to that, Rich, and I think that a lot of it is going to depend on what Mueller comes up with, because if Mueller comes up with an airtight case, if he comes forward and says, okay, here's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you line this up against what Nixon resigned over, and you say, whoa, you basically have no choice but to bring articles of impeachment, and then let the chips fall where they may. So it's hard to second guess it, but we'll see. George in Santee, California. Hey, George, what's up?
Good morning, Tom. I'm 71, and I know back in the 60s, the reason why Russia was an adversary of ours was just because of the idea of communism.
Yeah, it was an ideological difference.
Yeah, but if you could, would you maybe briefly summarize the current situation and why Russia's an adversary of ours now?
That's a good question, and I have long felt that we do business with regimes that are, worse, more autocratic. Saudi Arabia is the poster child for this, which is not to say that we should be reaching out to autocratic regimes, but I think that Russia has more interests aligned with us than a lot of the countries that we have. The other countries that we've gotten in bed with, and so in that regard, on the other hand, the NATO countries are rather concerned, and but on the third hand, we violated our NATO agreement. I think a lot of this goes back to that, by the way, the deal that Ronald Reagan, or actually it was George Herbert Walker Bush, made with Mikhail Gorbachev, and which was that the United States would not expand NATO, or NATO would not expand NATO into the Baltic states or onto Russia's borders, basically. And we have done that. We have expanded NATO onto their borders, and that, I think, is the initial source of the hostility. George, thanks for the call.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
We'll be back. We're going to check in with Talk Media News and find out what's going on in the world, and then back with your calls. And Congressman Chris Shays is going to drop by in the next hour. And welcome back, Jacob in Baltimore, Maryland. Hey, Jacob, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. Thanks for taking my call. I was calling because I was listening to a bunch of the efforts, and have been following about pharmaceuticals and the insane prices that we're paying. And as someone who's a chemist and has worked in both academia and pharmaceutical industry, I just don't really see how it is that the profit motive actually acts in a good way in any capacity in the pharmaceutical industry. I don't see how it's driving drug discovery at all in terms of useful drugs, and why we shouldn't just internalize the process.
Well, we already largely have, and have for the better part of 50 or 60 years with the National Institutes of Health. They fund the development of the vast majority of actual new drugs. Most of the research that's being done by the large drug companies, anyway, is not into new families or new categories or new classes of drugs, but rather is being done into how do we take the Prozac that's about to lose, that's about to go out of patent, and change one molecule so that it still does the same thing, but we can call it a new drug and jack the price back up as a proprietary retail drug. I mean, that's the kind of stuff. So yeah, I think your suggestion makes a lot of sense.
So I'm saying that I don't understand how this, we take all of the risk right, and the NIH and doing basic research. And then once it's gotten to the point where you can probably make money off of it, we just turn it over.
Yeah.
Private industry spends on $60 billion a year. So does the NIH and the NSF. Why not just double the budget, internalize all of that, and then we would own all of the drugs and all of the patents there, and would be able to set the price.
I absolutely agree, Jacob. I think it's a great idea, and I think that we should do it. You're good thinking. Jacob, thank you. Thank you. That's brilliant. Mary in Chicago. Hey, Mary, quick one.
Yes, I was very impressed by Senator Jeff Merkley's comments.
I agree.
Particularly the bill. I mean, it is brilliant.
Mary, if you could hold the microphone closer to your mouth, please. It's hard to hear you.
Yeah.
So I mean,
it's brilliant in its simplicity.
It really is. It really is.
Yeah. And I want to thoroughly agree with what Senator Merkley said about the emoluments clause.
Yeah.
I always thought that that Donald Trump committed an impeachable offense the moment he took the oath of office.
I agree.
And his insistence in not releasing his, tax returns, that kind of adds fuel to the fire, in my opinion.
Yeah. There is a reckoning coming.
Yeah, because I really want to know who he owes money to, and I think it can be concluded with any degree of certainty.
Yeah.
That is what dictates his public policy, decisions.
I think you're absolutely right, and it's not a good thing. I mean, the number one example of this is the Trump Hotel in Washington D.C., which he should have put into a trust. I mean, even the lease says that a person who holds political office cannot run this hotel or even own this hotel. I mean, he's in violation of his lease with the federal government. Mary, thank you for the call. And yeah, Merkley's bill is a big deal. Bob Ney is up next with Talk Media News. Stick around. Free Speech TV is in their fund drive right now, their fundraising drive. And so it would be a great time for you to call 877-378-8669. 877-378-8669. And of course, you can go to the Free Speech TV website and donate there as well. Please be sure to mention the show. There are a lot of great goodies that Free Speech TV is offering right now as part of the funds drive. And in fact, there's quite a few. But the important thing is to call 877-378-8669. Here's some information on one of the things that you can get. With a $72 contribution, you get the new edition. We spent, Troy Miller and I spent a year and a half going through all the research and updating everything and getting this thing exactly right with all the new climate change information, the last hours of ancient sunlight. That's with a $72 contribution, autographed by the author.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
So let's check in with Talk Media News and find out what's going on in the world. Today's report brought to you by goatsfortheoldgoat.com and Ellen Ratner's book, Loving What You Do. On the line with us, the author of Sideswiped, which, by the way, is in my hand. I am holding this book as we speak. Former Ohio Congressman Bob Ney. Bob, welcome back to the program.
Thank you, Tom, and it's an honor, really, for you to hold that book, so I appreciate it.
It is a great piece of literature. Everybody should read it if they really want to know what's going on, and they want to know about the crimes that John Boehner committed, because you literally lay them out. You say, here's a prosecutor's brief. Yep. If anybody wants to take these crimes. Now, speaking of crimes, it is being reported that federal officers just shut down the law firm or the accounting firm, I'm not sure which, that has been doing Trump's taxes for the last 12 years. Had you caught that?
Yeah, I just saw a blurb, and I didn't have time to go through it.
Yeah,
that's fascinating.
Yeah, Louise had, I don't know where the message went. It's now, they raided, kicked everyone out, papered over the windows. So, big goings on. In fact, actually, I know where I can find it. But what's at the top of your list?
Well, dovetailing on what you just said, because it all is now making sense, especially when you look at, well, let me start with this. And I don't know if you've got this story yet, but the Trump administration signed off on a $15 billion deal to sell Saudi Arabia Lockheed Martin's THAAD missiles defense systems. Those are regarded as America's crown jewels.
Right. And by the way, it wasn't a deal. It was an intent to do a deal.
Yeah, oh, yes, intent to do a deal. That's correct. And so, even amidst, and I'm going to tie this into, the whole business thing, but even in the midst of everything that's happened, in the midst of a resolution that couldn't pass 55-44 to stop the assistance to Saudi Arabia in a proxy war against Iran in Yemen, on top of all that, of course, the Senate, in a huge vote of 63-37, reversed all that after the members came out, especially in particular after having the briefings of the CIA, which the CIA director, of course, didn't attend. Now, having said all that, you have to connect all the dots, and then you look at the and Trump still holds to this, knowing everything that was going on, signs, this intent to deal. And then you take the Manafort plea, which now Mueller has said he has lied. And I guess the question I would ask is, what did they ask of Manafort that they now have completely revoked the plea agreement? What did he lie on? Right. And I think with that, and Cohen's plea deal today, admitting he lied to the Congress about Trump and discussions about the Trump Tower project in Russia, right, which he said stopped before the Iowa caucus. Now we know that's a lie. So you start to put all of these pieces together and what they want out of Manafort, and now with this law firm, and I think all of it is going to zero around the taxes, the business, who did what, with what, in particular in Russia, and if this keeps up, frankly, they might be looking at Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, I agree. And it's turning out, we thought we just had a grifter in the White House. It turns out that we may have a traitor in the White House. I'm counting, I'm not holding my breath, but I'm expecting any day now we're going to start hearing the word treason pop up on network news. By the way, the law firm is Alderman Burke. They have represented Trump's businesses for the last 12 years. The feds showed up this morning, not only marched everybody out, but then they put brown paper on all the doors and windows so that nobody can look in and see what the feds are doing.
Well, that's amazing.
Yeah. So
when it gets to that level, and again, they don't just walk into that law firm because they're after it for something else, obviously.
Yeah, I think the two people who are really going to nail Trump are the two people who had intimate knowledge of the crimes of the entire Trump crime family. One was his name Weisselberg, am I remembering right? The guy who ran the Trump companies on behalf of Fred Trump.
Right. Yeah, Weisselberg, I think it is.
Yeah, and then Donald as well. He's been running the companies for like 40 years or something. He's an old guy in his 70s, and which doesn't seem that old anymore. But in any case,
not to me, it's
not. There you go. But he's not going to go to prison for 20 years. He's going to roll over as fast as he can, and he knows everything. And then Michael Cohen was the fixer. It looks to me like the walls are closing in on this gun on the Trump crime family, the entire Trump crime family.
And Mueller is smart enough to know that he would get criticism if he just went after Trump for taxes, for example, right? And he'll get criticism in the sense that, well, look, you strayed beyond what the intent was, et cetera, although he has legal ability to do anything. But Mueller, I have to have assumption, as everybody on the Hill does at this point in time, is going in there for a specific reason, linking dots to Russia. He's not just doing it to look for any kind of
that was his
tax
charter,
evasion.
Basically. That's what he was impaneled to do.
Sure.
So.
Well, yes, and another thing about that charter, people say, well, he's strayed from this or that. If you read the charter, which I have read it, in fact, I read it again this morning, he has the ability to look at the situation of Russia, collusion, and any other issue that may arise. It's clearly spelled out in there.
Right, and it doesn't even have to derive from that. But I have a feeling that Mueller is just going to take him down. Every now and then I kind of get a little worried that maybe Trump can weasel out of this one. He's weaseled out of all kinds of things up to this point. But I think a day of reckoning is coming. Do you think so too, Bob?
I think so. I think it's all squeezing down.
Okay, your lips to God's ears. Bob Ney, Talk Media News. Thank you, Bob. Bye. Good talking with you. We'll be back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
Well, it's that time of year again, and I really love these fund drives because they are this is the Free Speech TV membership fund drive, fundraising, whatever they officially call it, because it's the opportunity for you and me to support this network, for us to help make a television network that is actually telling the truth about really important issues that the corporate media literally will not touch. You know, the disparities in wealth, why the billionaires are getting richer and richer, where taxes should be, the inheritance tax, the net neutrality. I mean, the nuclear power, it's global warming. They'll dance around the edges of that, but they always have some guy on going, well, it's not as bad as we think. You know how this goes. Free Speech TV is the truth-telling network. It's the little engine that could, and this is our opportunity to keep this network going, to keep this network on the air. 3 or 4 times a year, Free Speech TV comes to you and says, hey, please help our network out. Please support the network, and in this case, help support the Thom Hartmann Program on the network. And you can do that right now by calling 877-378-8669. 877-378-8669. Your chance to be part of Free Speech TV, to help Free Speech TV, to promote Free Speech TV, to make Free Speech TV work. So, you know, it's just a great time and a great opportunity. And if you put it in the context of this nation's history, it's an incredibly important time. We need Free Speech TV. And I mean, it's just amazing what Free Speech TV does. They're running an entire television network on a budget that's just a little over $3 million a year. I mean, it's just, as I recall, and it's just incredible. I mean, you know, extraordinary people at Free Speech TV doing really great work and working their butts off. And you know, for not a whole lot of pay or recognition, but you know, God bless them. This enterprise is really worth your support. So I know Giving Tuesday has come and gone, but this is, you know, 'tis the season, as it were. Plus, it's, you know, we're coming up on the end of the year, and your contributions to Free Speech TV are tax deductible. So be sure to ask for a receipt. With a $20 gift, you get a Free Speech TV 3x8 clear window sticker, a Free Speech TV sticker. It's kind of cool. With a $60 gift, you get the Thom Hartmann Tag You're It coffee mug. With a $72 gift, you get the 2018 edition of The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight by me. Now, this is a book that I wrote back in the 90s, predicting that there was going to be a crisis in the future, and it was going to have to do with ancient sunlight, which, of course, is oil. Plants captured sunlight hundreds of millions of years ago. It got buried in the earth as dead plant matter, compressed over time, heat and pressure converted it into oil. And now that oil is like, you know, now as we're burning it, we're releasing that sunlight energy back into the atmosphere. And not a good thing. Not just the energy, of course, we're also releasing the carbon, which was the storage mechanism for that energy. So Troy Miller and I went through and revisited all the science in the book because the original edition was 1996, and then it was updated in 2004, as I recall. And we just updated the book again for 2018 to have the most current data, including all the new information about methane. That's with a $72 gift. With a $120 gift, you get a Free Speech TV T-shirt, black with the logo and the sticker. With a now at $120, that gift can be also $10 a month for a year. With a $240 gift, which could be $20 a month for a year, Louise and I are going to put together a webinar, a live online seminar. We're calling it Personal Growth in NLP, and we're going to go through some of the core principles of neuro-linguistic programming, which is a technology for communication, for improving relationships, communication, work, I mean, all dimensions of your life. And the only people who are going to be invited are the people who have contributed $240 or more to Free Speech TV. So that's with the $240 level, or $20 a month for a year. And it's gonna happen sometime in the next few months. With a $360 gift, you get a 5-book special: The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight, Unequal Protection, The Thom Hartmann Reader, Rebooting the American Dream, and those are all by me. And then Greg Palast's book, The Best Democracy Money Can Buy. I'm not sure if that's his book or if it's the DVD. It's one or the other. And with a $480 gift, you get the 5-book special, plus the Free Speech TV, and that can be $40 a month for a year, plus the Free Speech TV T-shirt, plus the Thom Hartmann Tag You're At coffee mug. So, you know, it's kind of all of the above with $480 gift. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Washington, or not Washington, D.C., come to Portland, you know, where we have now moved, and you can see how we can produce a nationwide television program out of a little tiny studio, out of this little office, in this little office building here in Portland, and have fun doing it. You can see what we do and what Free Speech TV is doing, and you know how tightly we can bring a very small budget and actually produce something. And I'll take you to lunch, and we'll have a great time. So please call now, 877-378-8669. Thank you. Free Speech TV is in their fund drive right now, their fundraising drive, and so it would be a great time for you to call 877-378-8669, 877-378-8669. And of course, you can go to the Free Speech TV website and donate there as well. Please be sure to mention the show. There are a lot of great goodies that Free Speech TV is offering right now as part of the funds drive, and in fact, there's quite a few. But the important thing is to call 877-378-8669. Here's some information on one of the things that you can get. With a $72 contribution, you get the new edition. We spent, Troy Miller and I spent a year and a half going through all the research and updating everything and getting this thing exactly right with all the new climate change information, The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight. That's with a $72 contribution, autographed by the author.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. So a lot going on at this hour. The feds have apparently raided a Chicago alderman's office whose law firm worked for Trump for 12 years, papered over the windows and doors with brown paper. You have Congressman Cohen, Steve Cohen of Tennessee, the ranking member of the House Judiciary Subcommittee on Constitution and Civil Justice, introducing a constitutional amendment that would limit pardon power so that presidents cannot pardon members of their own administration or family. It's getting very strange. And Donald Trump apparently being played by Mueller here. Now, you know, he turns in his answers, his written answers to the questions, and boom, you know, Mueller brings out Cohen and says, no, Trump lied to us too, just like Manafort did. We knew it all along. It's pretty amazing. On the line with us is former Congressman Chris Shays, a Republican who represented Connecticut's 4th District for years and years. He's now a fellow at the Harvard Kennedy School of Politics. And his Twitter handle is C. Shays, S-H-A-Y-S. Congressman, welcome to the program.
Thanks. I need to correct something. I was at the Institute of Politics for the opportunity to be 3 months there, but I'm not connected with Harvard right now.
Oh, okay, great. Well, so first of all, as a Republican, how do you view what's going on with Donald Trump?
Well, as an American, I view what's going on with Donald Trump as a disaster. But, Donald Trump is everything my parents taught me not to be and everything we taught our daughter not to be. I mean, he's an anathema to me as president. But having said that, if the Democrats spend their time going after impeachment, they will make the same mistake Republicans made, and that is they'll spend 2 years, the government will basically be shut down, will get nothing done, and they'll lose their reason for people wanting to vote for Democrats.
I think you're completely wrong. We're talking, in Bill Clinton's case, they went through 10 different, quote, scandals, from the land deal to the Travelgate to law. I mean, it was an impeachment in search of a cause, and they ended up with a BJ in the Oval Office. Everybody in America was looking at that going, come on, give me a break. This is like Nixon.
Tom, slow down. I voted against impeachment. I was one of 4 people who voted against impeachment. I thought the impeachable offenses weren't proven and the proven offenses weren't impeachable. That's not my point. My point is that people are looking to Democrats not just to focus on impeaching Donald Trump, do hearings on what he's doing, expose what he's doing. But I'll tell you, once you go down the road of impeachment, nothing gets done.
Well, I think they can walk and chew gum at the same time, and I don't see why nothing would have to get done. But over the next 2 years, I think it's extremely unlikely that the Republicans in the Senate, even if the House were to return, a bill of impeachment, which only requires a simple majority in the Senate, you got to get 66 senators, and I don't see that happening unless the evidence.
You're making my argument. That's the whole point.
Yeah,
in the end, it won't achieve what you want to achieve.
My caveat, though, is unless the evidence is. I mean, right now, the on-the-record crimes that have been documented in the New York Times and the Washington Post that Trump has committed are roughly analogous to what Richard Nixon was impeached for, or was, they drew up articles of impeachment. He resigned, what he resigned over. And I think it's going to get a hell of a lot worse. But let's talk about, Republican policies and politics for a second. For years on this program, I've had a running contest, essentially. My assertion in simple form is that ever since the Republican Party took a major turn with the Nixon administration away from the classic Republican conservative politics of Dwight Eisenhower, my father's Republican Party. My dad was a Republican until the day he died. And we grew up, debating politics my whole life. Ever since the Republican Party went down the kind of Nixon road, the where's the money, where's the power road, I have not been able to find anything that has passed a Republican legislature, been signed into law by a Republican president, any single piece of legislation that primarily benefits average working people or poor people in the United States. I can't find, I've offered to send an autographed book to anybody who can name one piece of legislation in the last 2 decades. Can you?
Yeah. Well, it depends what you think help Americans. I thought getting our financial house in order and balancing the budget for years helped all Americans.
Well, Bill Clinton did that, and Jimmy Carter did that, but they were the only 2 presidents in the last 30 years to offer a balanced budget.
Bill Clinton and the Republicans did it. We did it together. I never introduced a bill without finding a Democrat to co-sponsor it. So I believe that you got to turn to both sides of the equation. But right now, as far as I'm concerned, the Democrats are way over to the left, the Republicans are way over to the right, and we carved out the middle, and we don't have people talking with each other.
That makes no sense. You say way over to the left. The last Gallup poll showed that 71% of Americans, 52% of Republicans support Medicare for all. The vast majority of Americans, in fact, I've got the survey survey here someplace. I can pull this stuff out. No, I don't. Anyway, the vast majority of Americans want Social Security strengthened. What did the Republican budget do? It cut Social Security. They want Medicare and Medicaid strengthened. What did the Republican budget do? It cut Medicare.
Yeah, but you're leaving out, and the vast majority of Americans want us to get our financial house in order too. So, I mean, there's a lot of things they want, and some of it conflicts.
And the vast majority of Americans want taxes raised. I mean, you say get your house in order, and what you're talking about is cutting social spending, cutting the federal budget. I say get our house in order, and I'm saying repeal the Reagan tax cuts. It's the Reagan tax cuts that created this massive imbalance. You look at every country around the world, when the top tax rate on income over roughly $3 million a year in today's dollars is above 50%, what happens is the middle class grows and the economy stabilizes. When the top tax rate goes below 50% on income over $3 million a year,
right,
then what happens is that you end up with oligarchs. And that's what has happened since the Reagan tax cuts. But the point I was making is if you go through the list of far-left positions.
Voted by Democrats. No, there was a bipartisan agreement with Democrats. The Reagan tax cuts were bipartisan.
Oh, I know. Reagan did a marvelous sales job. He was a very good actor and a very good salesman, and he sold us on this whole trickle-down thing that we all know now is BS, and it's killing our country. But my point was, where I was trying to go with this, is that if you look at all of the issues that, for example, Bernie Sanders ran on, every single one of them, I defy you to name one single issue that doesn't have more than 50% support among the American public. How can you call that far left?
Okay. When the Republicans, when we did the contract with America, we did 10 things on opening the first few weeks and 10 things in the first few months. Every one of them had 70% support of the American people. 70% support.
6 of those things I wrote a couple of pieces on this back in the day. 6 of those 10 items in the contract with America pointed back to tax cuts for rich people. And, we got had by Newt Gingrich and his PR machine and the billionaires. I get it. But this is, I don't think that we're being had by let's build infrastructure. Let's green America's energy sources. Let's clean up our air and water. Let's give everybody health insurance. Let's let kids go to college for free. I mean, you could call that far left, but that's the middle of America right now, Congressman.
No, I honestly don't think it's the middle of America. I mean,
so you think Americans like the fact that their kids, that we have $1.6 trillion in student debt that literally did not even exist 20 years ago?
No, but I don't think they want debt the other way either. I mean, we have
what do you mean?
We have a $20 trillion deficit that has been created by both Republicans and Democrats.
No, come on. Ronald Reagan came into office. The national debt was $800 billion. He tripled it. And
what happened under President Obama? He doubled it.
He had no choice. I mean, he had these 2 wars that George W. Bush lied us into, and this massive tax cut that George W. Bush gave us. If those 2 wars and that tax cut hadn't happened, the Clinton surplus would have paid off your national debt.
He could have ended the war.
But the other thing about the national debt, and
slow down. The thing that I have a problem with, and I have a lot of respect for you, is you are willing to accuse one side of one thing but not acknowledge what the other side did. You had a president for 8 years who had a chance to end the war and didn't.
You're right. I could give you a long list of complaints that I have about the Obama administration and about the Clinton administration. I'd be glad to go through that list with you. But I'm not sure what purpose it would serve for in the context of this debate. Yeah, Clinton should have ended those wars. Obama should have ended those wars. Absolutely, totally agree with you. But my point about the debt, if I could just make this point real quick.
Sure.
What I've been, you dig back into this stuff in the 1970s and 1980s, and what you find is that the voices who were screaming about the national debt were almost all New York bankers. Because the place right now in the world where you can most safely park your money is U.S. Treasuries. U.S. Treasuries are, our debt is also private savings and corporate savings. And it is the safest savings in the world. And those banks in New York want that money in their vaults rather than in the federal treasury.
One of the ironies, though, was after we balanced the budget for 4 years, Republicans started to complain that bondholders weren't having opportunities because we weren't issuing as many bonds.
My point. I mean, Japan's got a public debt, a national debt right now that's 216, I think, 217% of GDP. Has been for almost 2 decades, and it's not hurting Japan's economy. As long as there's demand for your debt, you don't have a crisis. I mean, we're having a problem now that our payments on the debt, particularly if interest rates go up another point, are going to equal our Pentagon budget, which is insane.
That's scary. That's scary.
Yeah, but I think that's a reasonable reason to be concerned about the national debt. But just the existence of a national debt, that's actually a good thing. The only time that the national debt in the United States has been paid off was during the Andrew Jackson administration. He paid off the national debt, and it produced, as a consequence, it produced the longest and deepest depression in the history of the United States.
Yeah, well, we cut down spending. You're right, and but you know, the bottom line to this whole talk, in my judgment, is we're not going to solve these problems if it's a one-party solution.
Okay.
And I mean, I have tremendous regret. I mean, I'm right now a Republican without a party.
Yeah, I get that. I just, if my dad was alive today, he'd be in shock.
Yeah, no, I am just totally depressed. I always wanted to be an elected official. I always wanted to be in government. From third grade on, I loved reading about our American history. I then thought when I was in high school and college, I might run for public office. I had 34 years of an opportunity. I thought our responsibility was to listen, learn, help, teach, and lead, and then listen again. And it's not happening anymore.
Yeah. Sir, I'm sorry, we're hitting a hard break here.
God bless you.
I'm not trying to cut you off. Former Congressman Chris Shays from Connecticut. C. Shays is the Twitter handle. Congressman, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
Great talking with you. Me too, actually. We'll be right back.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
It's 18 minutes past the hour. Back with your calls after this. And welcome back. Boy, what a day, huh? What a day. Carol in Manassas, Pennsylvania. Hey, Carol, what do you think about impeachment?
Well, personally, I think that we must impeach at this point. And I didn't always feel that way. But the fact is that I want the I'm a democratic socialist, so I'll say that in advance. I want that platform of Bernie's to be promoted in every chance we get, everywhere, because that's the one thing that's going to save this country. But the fact is that as long as Trump is in office, we are not going to be able to get anything done because while we do have the House majority, the Senate will kill everything we try to do, and if they don't kill it, Trump is going to kill it. So I don't see any possibility of our actually getting anything done as long as he is president. And I'd like your opinion on that, because I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But I think it's time to impeach this man. I think he's a real serious criminal.
I believe he is a criminal and has been for decades, at least since his bankruptcies, and probably for the entirety of his life, or at least of his business life. I agree with that, and I think that impeaching him simply by way of even if he's not removed from office, right? Even if he can't get 66 votes in the Senate, impeaching him in the House of Representatives is a way of putting it on the record that what this man has done is a violation of the standards and norms that we expect of our elected officials in the United States of America. Period. Right. Full stop. It's a state.
This is not who we are.
That's right.
I mean, this man's policies, his unorthodox behavior, his criminality, this is not who we are as a country.
Yeah, I agree. Now, that said, and, the huge caveat here is what's Mueller going to come out with? Because if Mueller comes out with evidence that is enough to impeach Trump, but Mike Pence is not at all implicated, we end up with President Pence. And President Pence, and particularly if it happens in the next year, President Pence will then have a whole year to basically run for election and might have a good chance, particularly if he picks somebody like Mitt Romney as his running mate. So maybe the best politics is to let Donald Trump be president all the way through 2020, let people's heads explode, their blood boil, and get more and more and more pissed off, so that in the 2020 election you have the same kind of massive blue wave that you had in the 2018 election. That's the most cynical way to look at it, and that's not how I am looking at it. But I know that that's part of the debate that's going on inside the Democratic Party. But everybody everybody is basically waiting to see what Mueller has. I mean,
I don't think that Pence has enough charisma or likability or policies that anybody cares about that he could possibly win anyway. I don't like the man, and I don't think most people like him.
I think you're probably right. I mean, he was gonna lose as governor of Indiana, or he did, one or the other. I don't recall.
Right.
Yeah, but you know, that said, Trump is the thing that turned out the Democratic base. So in a way, he's kind of a gift to the Democrats. Just,
in a way, but,
you know.
Oh Lord, I'm on my last nerve with this man.
Yeah, the price is just too high to pay, and
he needs to go.
Yeah, I'm with you, Carol. I'm with you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot for the call. Good talking to you. Tom Steyer is onto something. You know, the need to impeach.org, I think it is, maybe it's .com. Probably both, is solid. It's really solid. We'll be back with more of your calls right after this. Stick around. Free Speech TV is in their fund drive right now, their fundraising drive. And so it would be a great time for you to call 877-378-8669. 877-378-8669. And of course, you can go to the Free Speech TV website and donate there as well. Please be sure to mention the show. There are a lot of great goodies that Free Speech TV is offering right now as part of the funds drive. And in fact, there's quite a few. But the important thing is to call 877-378-8669. Here's some information on one of the things that you can get. With a $72 contribution, you get the new edition. Troy Miller and I spent a year and a half going through all the research and updating everything and getting this thing exactly right with all the new climate change information, the last hours of ancient sunlight. That's with a $72 contribution, autographed by the author.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you, and Georgia in Lakewood, Washington. Hey, Georgia, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. I actually just wanted to say and correct you because you said that there hasn't been a legislation that affects poor people that the Republicans have done. And I'm pretty sure George Bush Sr. did a lot of environmental policies.
You would have to.
That actually did.
You would have to. You would have to specify a piece of legislation that went through Congress and was passed with majority Republican votes.
I want to say it might be clean air.
What George? Well, okay. You might have something. What George Bush the elder did was he pushed for and got a what do they call that? The credit trading scheme, cap and trade. He passed cap and trade for sulfur dioxide and to deal with acid rain, and it actually succeeded in dealing with acid rain. I don't see where that necessarily benefited the average person any more than it benefited the big corporations. In fact, the big corporations were taking the biggest hit from acid rain because it was starting to peel the paint off buildings and hurt equipment and all kinds of things. So
here's how it relates: is that if you have clean air, clean energy, the poor people, which are usually in the poor neighborhoods, you can even find this in Philadelphia. They have like a trash facility, and the air quality there made it so bad that everyone living there ended up getting in the hospital and getting sick and having cancer and all these issues. So I'm saying is
but cap and trade on sulfur dioxide. Sulfur dioxide is not something that you can see in the air. It's not something that's a pollutant that when you breathe it in the low quantities that it is in the atmosphere harms you. It's harmful because it combines in the atmosphere with the sulfur combines with oxygen. It combines with water vapor, and in the presence of ultraviolet light at high altitudes, and produces sulfuric acid, thus the acid rain. And so, but it's very, very dilute sulfuric acid. So the average person, the average homeowner, the average whatever, was largely unaffected by acid rain. It was, large institutions and also, buildings around the United States that were made with granite, with limestone and things like that would be dissolved by acids. So I think you're getting close, Georgia. I think you're getting close.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact legislature, which is more frustrating. But I know that he was the one that started it.
No,
on environmental policy.
Yeah, it was the sulfur dioxide cap and trade legislation. It's which he did propose, and I'm guessing that was a relatively non-controversial thing, at least among the Democrats. Georgia, thanks for the call. No cigar yet. It's not primarily benefiting the working class and poor people. But, we'll keep trying. Stick around. We'll be right back. It's 27 minutes past the hour. More of your calls after the break.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Defending America from the weapons of mass deception. Thom Hartmann here with you. Well, it's that time of year again, and I really love these fund drives because this is the Free Speech TV membership fund drive, fundraising, whatever they officially call it, because it's the opportunity for you and me to support this network, for us to help make a television network that is actually telling the truth about really important issues that the corporate media literally will not touch. The disparities in wealth, why the billionaires are getting richer and richer, where taxes should be, the inheritance tax, the net neutrality, the nuclear power, it's global warming. They'll dance around the edges of that, but they always have some guy on going, well, it's not as bad as we think. You know how this goes. Free Speech TV is the truth-telling network. It's the little engine that could, and this is our opportunity to keep this network going, to keep this network on the air. 3 or 4 times a year, Free Speech TV comes to you and says, hey, please help our network out. Please support the network, and in this case, help support the Thom Hartmann Program on the network. And you can do that right now by calling 877-378-8669. 877-378-8669. Your chance to be part of Free Speech TV, to help Free Speech TV, to promote Free Speech TV, to make Free Speech TV work. So, it's just a great time and a great opportunity. And if you put it in the context of this nation's history, it's an incredibly important time. We need Free Speech TV. And it's just amazing what Free Speech TV does. They're running an entire television network on a budget that's just a little over $3 million a year. It's just, as I recall, and it's just incredible. Extraordinary people at Free Speech TV doing really great work and working their butts off. And for not a whole lot of pay or recognition, but God bless them. This enterprise is really worth your support. So I know Giving Tuesday has come and gone, but this is, tis the season, as it were. Plus, it's, we're coming up on the end of the year, and your contributions to Free Speech TV are tax deductible. So be sure to ask for a receipt. With a $20 gift, you get a Free Speech TV 3x8 clear window sticker, a Free Speech TV sticker. It's kind of cool. With a $60 gift, you get the Thom Hartmann Tag You're It coffee mug. With a $72 gift, you get the 2018 edition of The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight by me. Now, this is a book that I wrote back in the 90s, predicting that there was going to be a crisis in the future, and it was going to have to do with ancient sunlight, which, of course, is oil. Plants captured sunlight hundreds of millions of years ago. It got buried in the earth as dead plant matter, compressed over time, heat and pressure converted it into oil. And now that oil is like, now as we're burning it, we're releasing that sunlight energy back into the atmosphere. And not a good thing. Not just the energy, of course, we're also releasing the carbon, which was the storage mechanism for that energy. So Troy Miller and I went through and revisited all the science in the book, because the original edition was 1996, and then it was updated in 2004, as I recall. And we just updated the book again for 2018 to have the most current data, including all the new information about methane. That's with a $72 gift. With a $120 gift, you get a Free Speech TV T-shirt, black with the logo and the sticker. With a $120, that gift can be also $10 a month for a year. With a $240 gift, which could be $20 a month for a year. Louise and I are going to put together a webinar, a live online seminar. We're calling it Personal Growth in NLP, and we're going to go through some of the core principles of neurolinguistic programming, which is a technology for communication, for improving relationships, communication, work, I mean, all dimensions of your life. And the only people who are going to be invited are the people who have contributed $240 or more to Free Speech TV. So that's with the $240 level, or $20 a month for a year. And it's gonna happen sometime in the next few months. With a $360 gift, you get a 5-book special: The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight, Unequal Protection, The Thom Hartmann Reader, Rebooting the American Dream, and those are all by me. And then Greg Palast's book, The Best Democracy Money Can Buy. I'm not sure if that's his book or if it's the DVD. It's one or the other. And with a $480 gift, you get the 5-book special, plus the Free Speech TV, and that can be $40 a month for a year, plus the Free Speech TV T-shirt, plus the Thom Hartmann Tag You're at coffee mug. So, you know, it's kind of all of the above with $480 gift. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Washington, or not Washington, D.C., come to Portland, where we have now moved, and you can see how we can produce a nationwide television program out of a little tiny studio, out of this little office, in this little office building here in Portland, and have fun doing it. You can see what we do and what Free Speech TV is doing, and you know how tightly we can wring a very small budget and actually produce something. And I'll take you to lunch, and we'll have a great time. So please call now, 877-378-8669. Thank you.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you, 34 minutes past the hour. And Kevin in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Hey, Kevin, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom, how are you?
Good. What's up?
Okay. Yeah, listening to you, you mentioned something about what Republicans have done for poor people in the,
and working people.
I don't know if working people, right. One of the things and I'm not a Republican, I'm a Democrat, stone cold, always have been. But Richard Nixon did start the Earned Income Tax Credit.
Right, but he had a Democratic Congress.
Yeah.
So that's not legislation that was initiated in a Republican Congress and passed for the Republican president.
Okay, well, he just went along with it, is what you say.
Well, I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at the bill. I wasn't paying attention back in the 70s, and when that happened, and I haven't done any research on it. But I do know that the Republicans did not control the House of Representatives until the middle of the Clinton administration. I mean, literally from the end of the Great Depression, there were two little blips when Republicans held the House for one congressional cycle, one in 46, 47, and the other one, I think it was in 56. And, other than that, the Democrats continuously controlled the House of Representatives right up until 96.
Okay.
So.
And there is one other thing that happened under the Nixon regime, too, and I'm glad that I didn't know that, but you're right. But Section 8, the Section 8 program.
Section 8 housing. Yeah, didn't? Yeah. That's interesting. I don't know anything about that program, frankly. That's an area where I should do some research.
I love when you do the books, but and how I know is I was studying human services back in 2011, and there was this great textbook. I'm sorry, I don't know the name of it, and it went all the way up to Obama, and it specifically mentioned everything every administration did for people in the margins. And that's where I got that from. Wow. So I have to research it, and I've got to go back to Harrisburg and find that book. Well, but it's a great textbook.
If you track it down, let me know. I'd love to see it.
I certainly will, and I thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. Great to hear from you. George in Alsip, Illinois. Hey, George, what's up?
Hi, Tom. Your interview with former Congressman Shays is the second one that I heard today, and I was interested in the differing approaches between you and Bill Press. Of course, the former congressman got an easier run of it on Bill's show because they're longtime old friends. But I think it's a tribute to the training and education you've given all of us listeners over the years that I was listening to the earlier interview, and I was like analyzing and ticking off the things that he was saying that were typical Republican belief or cant that have been disproven over the years and that you've enlightened us on. And I know it's one of your strongest rules that we don't criticize people who've been on the show who are no longer there to defend themselves. But there are blind spots in even the most decent, bipartisanly oriented Republicans like Congressman Shays.
Yeah. No, and I don't know Chris Shays personally, but when Louise and I lived in the Gangplank Marina in Washington D.C., we lived on a boat in the marina there. The boat next to us, which was not being lived in, it was just a pleasure boat, was Chris Shays' boat, and I'm sure I ran into him a couple of times down there. In fact, I remember seeing him once on the boat, but we never really connected or talked. But everything I heard from everybody who lives down in the marina is that he's a really decent guy. I have no reason to think, him guilty of any kind of perfidy, and I'm kind of scratching my head because they reached out to us and said, hey, you want to have a conversation, and obviously they reached out to Bill Press too, and I'm wondering why Chris Shays is doing this right now. Does he have a book coming out, or is he thinking of making a political comeback, or is he just bored and this will be fun? I don't know. I'm kind of curious.
I know. I was wondering the same things myself because I kept waiting for somebody to mention a book, and it never came up.
Yeah, and typically that's the case.
One thing I'd like to mention specifically was that he recounted how if you don't stick to the straight and narrow in either party, you're going to get primaried. Well, this is more of a problem for Republican office holders than Democrats.
Right.
But he talked about how when he finally decided after several years of hedging to back school vouchers, that the teachers' unions actively campaigned against him. They had supported him in the past, but he was very aggrieved that this special interest was opposing him.
Is this what he told Bill Press this morning?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just thought to myself, how can the term special interest came about during the Teddy Roosevelt years, and it was about oligarchs and people who created monopolies. Groups of working people like teachers are not a, quote, special interest, unquote. That they're the heart and soul of this country, the people who do the educating and the teaching and get all of us up and started and going for our lives. And that's not the same thing as the Koch brothers.
Yeah, or just any for-profit company, actually, and the teachers' union is a nonprofit, as all unions are. So,
as you've thought, it's democratic.
Yeah, and yes, you're right, and it's a democratic institution that elects its leadership, and if its leadership doesn't do what its members want, it gets changed, and unions are very aware of that. George, thank you for all the points and fascinating conversation. I didn't realize Congressman Shays was on Bill's show this morning. Paul in Woodinville, Washington. Hey, Paul, what's on your mind today?
Yeah, I was listening to your conversation with Congressman Shays, and what strikes me is that to get past the finger-pointing point of debate, both sides have to acknowledge this, that the skyrocketing cost of health care is the number one factor affecting all of our economic difficulties, all of them. And the problem is we are at a crossroads now where we can't say it's either stay on this road, the unsustainable road that we're on with private insurance and skyrocketing costs. There's no fixing Obamacare because Obamacare was never intended to control costs. It was only intended to give people access to basically a skyrocketing out of control system. It's either that or single payer. That's where we are. because the cost of health care is affecting the cost of public education. Why is that? Because we have employer-based health care, and as the states are also employers, their costs of health care are going up, up, up. So how are colleges and universities funded? By subsidy. You pay. It used to be in our day, Tom. The colleges and universities in the state of Michigan were well subsidized.
80%.
Well, when the state
80% of the cost of
more and
college.
more for health care for its employees and so on, then there's not as much money to subsidize the universities, so you have to raise tuition rates. And so it's driving up everything. You can't have free college as long as you have, or let me say, not free, fully funded colleges like the Bernie Sanders plan, if you've got health care costs that are skyrocketing out of control.
Right.
And there's no way you can control skyrocketing health care costs if you've got a system that has 6 different types of insurance, from Medicare to Medicaid to the private proprietary insurance to the Blues and you don't have any standardization of costs. It depends on where you live as to how much you pay in premiums. And we can see the Obamacare essentially did have a public option in the sense that it provided a public subsidy to get into the system. I have to say this, and I hope people understand this, and don't press for this. We do not want a public option in health care, because the public option that people insisted on in 2010 would have failed by now because of what's happening to Obamacare. The public option would require taxes but it would be existing in the toxic environment that all the other insurance plans are existing, and it would be the one, even though everybody else's premiums are skyrocketing too, it would be the public option that would be getting the finger pointed at, saying this is the one that's failing. And it would be also tied and associated to single
because of rising doctor, hospital, and drug costs. Out of control. Yeah, I get it. And then you take that on the one hand, what I would say are essentially existential crises. You've got the exploding cost of health care, you've got the exploding cost and debt associated with education, and then you have household debt, corporate debt, and bank misbehavior, all on a level that we haven't seen since 2007, 2008. And those have combined to cripple our economy and may well take our entire economy down. That's on one hand. On the other hand, you've got global warming. You've got the insect apocalypse. I mean, you've got massive die-offs happening all over the world as a consequence of global warming. We're now to the point where humans and the livestock that we eat constitute 96% of all the mammals on Earth. It's by weight. I mean, we've got a real crisis here now, and this is in large part because of habitat loss and A, too many people, B, global warming. And so, we've got like really serious stuff that we've got to be dealing with. And instead, people are trying to sit around saying, well, why can't we just be friends? I don't get it.
There is the lead domino in the cascade. And an example is, I just went to see my ophthalmologist to look at my diseased retinas. He didn't look in my eyes. I wasn't in that room for 5 minutes. I just got the bill. Of course, I'm on Medicare, but Medicare is being charged $380.
Wow, for 5 minutes.
Less than a 5-minute appointment to see that this guy who has a diseased retina, yep, they're still diseased, but they look okay. It's like we can't have costs like that.
Yeah.
That's just outrageous. And that is what is, and like I said, you cannot get these kind of costs under control when you don't have a standardized system where you got, because the way that every insurance company pays, and if you have a good premium, it's only because you have an insurance company that does a lot of business with this particular provider that there's no standardization, there's no real cost of any of this
You're right.
stuff.
And this is what you get with single payer. Paul, thanks for the call. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
We'll be back with more of your calls right after this. It's 45 minutes past the hour. And welcome back, Marianne in Seattle. Hey, Marianne, what's up?
Hi, I want to have your thoughts on impeachment with the president at this time. I do believe this man is dementing. His father did about the same age. It's the piece that has never been implemented but was put in place after Nixon was drinking himself into oblivion. But I would really, I think it may be the only way for this Senate to save face, as it were, and do it, just like they didn't take us out of the Vietnam War for all those years because they were saving face when a man who's in that position thinks he is the state.
Right.
I do believe he was a criminal, and I do believe you're right on in that he didn't ever intend to be president, but now that he's there and at risk, and I do see cracks.
Yeah, Marianne, I don't pretend to be an expert on dementia, but my mother died of Alzheimer's. And when she was my age, it was fairly obvious to all of us that something really bad was going on. And by the time she was Donald Trump's age, she was way over the hill. And I have seen the videos. There's a great comparison video of Donald Trump doing an interview with a reporter in the 1980s and Donald Trump doing an interview with a reporter in the 2016 during the campaign. And he goes from being smart and articulate and on focus and having facts at his command to having to grasp for things and wandering off on tangents. But there is this thing called age-related or age-appropriate brain shrinkage, mental decline. As we get older, we start grasping for words and things. That's part of the normal aging process. I'm not seeing signs of dementia in Donald Trump. I'm seeing signs of sociopathy. I'm seeing signs of narcissism. I think these have been lifelong conditions, though. I think the man is mentally ill. I don't think, though, that he's in, a certain amount of cognitive decline, but And it really is in sharp contrast when you compare him with somebody who's, a year older than he is, Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders comes on this program and just pulls numbers out of the air. I mean, Bernie Sanders' brain is working better than mine did when I was 20. But, I'm far more concerned about Trump's criminality than the possibility that he's becoming senile.
I agree. I just don't think the criminality piece is going to shift. And you know how it goes when you're aging. If that's the reality for you, just like folks can put on a record and come up with the energy that they had when they were 17 or 25 and first heard it, it's the same thing. He's got sound bites that drive him, and he knows how to respond to that. He is definitely a showman, but those cracks, that reaching for words and material, I think it's showing up a lot more, but only when the pressure's on and really high, and he does get outlets with. Oh,
he's got to be living in an absolute pressure cooker right now. I mean, his world is crumbling around him. He only sleeps 5 hours a night. He's got all these grievances. He's convinced people are out to get him, and by the way, they are. I guess sometimes even when you're paranoid, people are actually out to get you, and for good reason. I mean, the guy is a lifelong criminal. He's been a grifter his whole life, and now the entire Trump crime family is at risk because he wanted to do a stunt to get a pay raise from NBC. It's just incredible. Marianne, thanks for the call. We'll see where all this goes. I mean, that's just the bottom line. Mueller is holding a lot of cards right now, and none of us know what's in those cards. Sean got an email this morning from Jerome Corsi, and I said, now Robert Mueller knows all about you, Sean, and me. We'll be right back. Free Speech TV is in their fund drive right now, their fundraising drive, and so it would be a great time for you to call 877-378-8669, 877-378-8669. And, of course, you can go to the Free Speech TV website and donate there as well. Please be sure to mention the show. There are a lot of great goodies that Free Speech TV is offering right now as part of the funds drive, and in fact, there's quite a few. But the important thing is to call 877-378-8669. Here's some information on one of the things that you can get. With a $72 contribution, you get the new edition. Troy Miller and I spent a year and a half going through all the research and updating everything. and getting this thing exactly right with all the new climate change information, The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight. That's with a $72 contribution, autographed by the author.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you, and John in Chicago. Hey, John, what's up?
You were talking about the earned income tax credit that Nixon did and the Section 8 housing.
Well, a caller was talking about them. I'm not that sufficiently familiar with either of those programs to be able to offer an informed opinion.
Yeah, I have a little background in that. Okay. There was a huge fight, in my opinion, it was huge, about that earned income tax credit because a lot of us were saying, and on the radio too in those days, that this is just a way for employers not to raise wages. You're simply you're giving away tax money to people because they're not making money. Why aren't they making money? Because the big guys don't want to pay them.
Right. So
and that
it's
was
just
the reasoning behind that, in my opinion, and a lot of people in Chicago at that time. That's where I'm at. And the Section 8 was a way that wonderful new book that on Gotham. Section 8 was a way to destroy the black and reclaiming Gotham, which Juan Gonzalez talks all about. How in the 70s they were destroying the inner cities like Daly here, New York. And Section 8, you had to have some way to get these people to live out where you wanted them, in the boonies. And that was Section 8.
Huh.
It was slum clearance, slum meaning black people.
So it was basically relocating the people that you're keeping down.
Exactly. You want the inner city, because the around the city center was surrounded by these slums from the
right. So they wanted to develop that area because it was prime real estate, and exactly. You can't just go in and say, okay, we're going to kick you out of the house that's been in your family for 3 generations, and you got no place to go.
House.
Right. Wow.
Yeah, so we fought that, both of those. The progressive people here in Chicago, of course, it was nationwide, but that was nothing to do with helping anybody, in my opinion.
I'm thinking you're absolutely right in both cases, John. John, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm telling you,
you're welcome.
You are the example, John. I've got the smartest listeners on earth. I've never listened to a radio show with listeners as smart as we have on this program. It's such an honor to hang out with you guys. John, thank you very much.
It's mutual.
Yeah, thank you. Great talking with you. Carol in St. Paul, Minnesota. Hey, Carol, what's up?
Hey, Tom. Listening to my head is exploding, and I am wondering whether or not there will be any way for any Republican to get on board the division that was created in the 60s, the division between the hippies and the rest of the world. And I am a totally unrepentant hippie. And when you look at people in our age bracket, they are not all Fox News viewers. The Fox News viewers, I feel, are the ones that felt that the hippie movement was against them.
Right.
And I want to know what we as citizens, some extra ideas over what you've had, can get to any Republican that we have that is a representative either at our city, state, federal level, and say, hey, you guys, you know what? You got to start to get honest.
Well, here's the problem, Carol. The Republican Party is a con job. It's been a con job since 1968. They're running a scam. They're enriching themselves. They're enriching their buddies, and that's all they're in it for. They come up with some nice-sounding stuff, we want to lower taxes on everybody. We want to raise standards of living. We're going to have the Clean Air Act and the Clean Water Act. But none of them actually do that. All they do is they enrich very wealthy people. And so it's not like we need to find Republicans that we can reach out to. It's nice to hear Chris Shays on this program, who's no longer in Congress, say, my party has left me. I don't recognize this party. I get that. But even when he was in the party, it was a con job. Now, I'm not saying that Chris Shays was a con artist, but the party, the Republican Party, since the election of Richard Nixon, has not had any moral or political integrity. And so I don't think that we can reach out to them. I think we just have to defeat them, utterly defeat them at the polls.
And that's okay. So then we're talking back to the 60s. We really are, because that was when, or back to the 30s.
Yep. Nope. We got to get in the streets. Carol, I want to get one last call in here before the show ends. Thanks for your call. Bruce in St. Petersburg, you're on the air.
Yes, Tom. I just a couple things. Back in the '60s, my dad told me the Republicans run up the debt, the Democrats pay it off.
Yep, it's true.
And
It's actually true.
It was George Bush that said Reagan's economics was voodoo.
Yep, you're absolutely right. George Herbert Walker Bush. Yeah.
And about these plants closing down, these GM plants, we built them out. Those are actually our plants. I think that we ought to do a Richard Wolf deal here and do a co-op with zero interest and let the employees take over those plants and turn them into solar plants and electric cars.
That would be something. That would be something, Bruce. I agree. I completely agree. Thank you for the call. And you know, it could be done, actually. You know, if you had Democratic Socialists in Congress. Oy, oy, oy. We have a long way to go. That's the bad news. The good news is most of the country is with us. It's just a matter of getting over the institutional obstacles that Republicans have built over the last 40 years as they've run their grift, their con on us. And now the ultimate grifter, the ultimate con man, is sitting in the White House. It's mind-boggling, but we've got a lot of work to do. So don't forget, democracy is not a spectator sport. It requires you. Get out there, get active, tag. You're it. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great afternoon.
You've been listening to Thom Hartmann. For audio and video archives, visit thomhartmann.com.